Good evening. I'll call the meeting to order. Madam Clerk, would you please call a roll of the council?
Yes, sir. Councilman Fogarty.
Here.
Councilman Lawson.
Here.
Council Vice President Rego.
Yeah.
Councilwoman Souza.
Here.
Council President Rodrick.
Here. Let the record show all 5 members are present. Thank you. Please rise and we'll have the salute to the flag. Councilman Fogarty, would you lead us?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Did we all get one of these?
Unless there is a feeling among the council to meet in executive session at the close of the meeting, I would entertain a motion at this time to meet and close executive session pursuant to Rhode Island laws 42, 46-5, A and 1, and 42-46-5, A and 2. Discussion of personnel with hiring of the city clerk and collective bargaining with the East Providence Police. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Lawson, seconded by Councilman Fogarty to go to a executive session at this time. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. So we will try to be as quick as possible and we'll return shortly. Thank you.
Test, 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 test. Test.
How are you? Good. Great, thanks. Chief, can I see you 2 seconds?
Call the meeting back to session. I would entertain a motion to seal the minutes of the executive session.
So moved.
Motion by Councilman Lawson, seconded by Councilman Fogarty to seal the minutes of the executive session and return back to public session. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? The ayes have that unanimously. Madam Clerk, if you would continue with the next item on the agenda.
Yes, sir. Next item is consent calendar for discussion and possible vote. Council journals, regular meeting minutes, April 18th, 2023. Executive session special meeting minutes, April 20th, 2023. Special meeting minutes, April 20th, 2023. Executive session special meeting minutes, April 26th, 2023. And special meeting minutes from April 26th of 2023.
Motion to accept the consent calendar as read.
Second.
Motion by Councilwoman Souza to accept the consent calendar, seconded by Councilman Fogarty. All in favor?
Aye.
Are there any opposed? The ayes have that unanimously. Thank you. Next item.
Next will be licenses for discussion and possible vote. We do have the motion to bundle C1 through C7, if you so feel entertained to do
Yep.
so.
Make the motion to bundle them, please.
Second.
Motion made by Councilman Fogarty, seconded by Councilwoman Souza. Before I ask for the vote, Madam Clerk, could you just read the titles for the general public so they know which items they are? You don't have to read the whole thing, just the title request.
Yes, sir. We're going to do a one-day entertainment license. That's going to be at El Azteca. There's going to be another one-day entertainment license that is at Saks Pizza. One-day entertainment at Trinity Brotherhood for their feast. Application for alcoholic beverage special event at the Trinity Brotherhood Feast. One-day entertainment license for Holy Ghost Brotherhood Feast. The application for the special event alcohol license at Holy Ghost Brotherhood for the feast. And holiday sales for Manuela's Tailor Shop.
These are non-public hearings.
Correct.
In any event, as we approach summer, these are the typical feast and 1 day, 2 day celebrations that come up. So this is a motion just to bundle.
So moved.
Motion by Councilman Lawson,
Bundle.
second.
We already
We did the bundle, then we'll do a
Motion to approve.
separate motion. So all in favor of bundling these items, say aye.
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 Are there any opposed? The ayes have it unanimously. I would entertain a motion to approve the items as listed.
So moved.
Motion by Councilman Lawson,
And seconded.
seconded by Councilman Fogarty to approve. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? The ayes have it unanimously. Thank you. Next item, Madam Clerk.
Next item, communications, street safety from Nancy Hale. Ms. Hale?
Yes, is the person present? Would you please come forward and your name and address for the record?
My name is Nancy Hale. My address is 889 Bullocks Point Avenue, Riverside, Rhode Island.
Yes, thank you. You can proceed. We have a general limit of 3 minutes, but we're very flexible with that,
This is communications, Council President.
right? You
30
can
minutes.
continue.
Yeah.
All right, my target is 10 minutes. And then after that, you guys can decide if you want to hear my ideas for solutions to the problem I'm going to discuss. First of all, I just want to do a little bit of introduction about myself. I was born in Providence, long family history of businesses and residences throughout East Providence. I graduated with honors from a good college in psychobiology. And I'll tell you, I'm really bad at government, really bad. Also bad at public speaking, microphones, podiums, etc. But this issue is important enough, not just for me, but hopefully for many families, children, people in wheelchairs. So I am going to continue with my introduction with this little section called When I Was a Kid. I could safely ride my bike to what was then called Crescent Park. I rode there days and days and rode on the flying fish, especially the bumper cars in the carousel. For 2 years, probably, all my free time, my cousin and I would get on our bikes. We would ride over there with bandanas and bad smiles and have pictures taken in whatever the photography equipment was when we got in those little, whatever you call those photo booths. Anyway, we rode our bikes a lot. It was safe. When I wanted a new 10-speed bike, when I got older and I outgrew my other bike, I had to earn $50. First of all, I tried dragging a huge lemonade stand on a big wagon, which I would bring to the nearby tennis courts. Not a bad idea, but there really weren't a lot of people at the tennis courts playing tennis. There's only 4 or 5, so you live and learn. Then I tried mowing the lawn, yes, with helmet and goggles. That wasn't so great either. When I got old enough, I was able to make money babysitting, and this was really a gold mine. I was able to make money while watching somebody else's TV, eating snacks, and talking on the phone while the kids were in bed. Live and learn. So I'm here tonight to bring public safety issues to the forefront. I look out my window every day and I see southbound motor vehicles ignore completely 2 stop signs, which are preceded by stop sign ahead signs. I have seen a cement truck come blowing through these signs into a residential neighborhood where there are no yellow stripes down the middle. It used to be a dirt road. These roads, Bullocks Point Avenue was built in the days of horse and buggies, Model T Fords. I've seen after that cement truck, a Mack truck with a little bit of wood, a gigantic Mack truck, delivering wood. I last weekend saw an 18-wheeler Coca-Cola truck, totally lost. And after passing signs which say dead end and no outlet, the driver was, am I in and out or can you hear me? It sounds different to me. So he was a young guy, very nice, listening to something on his earphones and then realizing that he was in a situation that, it looked like he would have to back up all the way to the highway, maybe. But he decided to back into Terrace Avenue, which intersects with Bullocks Point Avenue, sort of jackknifing this 18-wheeler. I dropped my hose. I was out watering the hostas.
Nancy, are you saying an 18-wheeler was going on the terrace?
Yeah, well, that's not the only thing. Right. Well, he was lost, a young driver. It's understandable. And I did discuss this with, I did mention this to city planning, a woman who was very kind and listened carefully. I think her name is Johanna. So she said, yeah, well, that can be prevented or at least reduced by having a truck route like up. I'm not a city planner. I'm not a road engineer.
No, I'll follow through on that. I'm pretty sure 18-wheelers aren't allowed.
Well, someone else also brought up the weight limit, which I hadn't thought of. But basically, I'm like, this is really bad because the people driving their BMWs and other kinds of cars going kind of faster than 25 miles an hour, unfortunately. But,
Okay.
if they come around that Terrace Avenue corner and hit an 18-wheeler backing up, it's not going to be pretty for anybody.
So is the concern speed?
No. My primary
what's the
concern is
main-
lack of common sense.
Oh, well, we can't govern that.
Yeah, well, I think we cannot govern it, and you can't. You cannot legislate common sense. But actually, you can fundraise and increase awareness around basic common sense and public safety. And while you're fundraising for that and adding it to pre-existing events which already exist at Rose Larissa Park, For example, I think there's a festival in August of some sort. I think it's the
always stuff going on.
Rhode Island Jazz Festival.
We have the
There
roof.
are other concerts every other week on Thursday nights. I would love to be able to attach some public safety awareness to those events, as well as possible fundraising.
Okay.
Why do we need fundraising? I'm really bad at money. If there's something worse than public speaking, I can't even balance my own check.
Would you like to meet me at the carousel and we'll discuss all your ideas?
Sure, but I want to keep going.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. But I just want to say,
Finish, and then we
I can absolutely.
I don't want to talk so much about problems, because when I do talk about those, most people have agreed, yeah, that probably shouldn't be happening, and there's a solution.
Okay.
Some of it requires, traffic engineers to actually assess. It's not just that corner where I live, because I got going down the street. It's all the way up to where Washington Avenue crosses and where Riverside Square is developing. So we have some great new businesses. I've tried to go to those businesses. Really difficult to park without the fear of being rear-ended for the 6th time in my life. So, some of that might be on me with a little bit of added fear. But if that light is green and you come around to park on the right-hand side to go to any of the new businesses, it's a like 50-50 chance. If you're hyper aware like me, you can avoid getting rear-ended. If you're a younger driver and you just pull over quickly, if that light is green, someone's going to get rear-ended if it hasn't already happened. I have found the police department to be very, very cooperative. I've reported a number of things, but if I were to report everything, it would be every 5 minutes. That's impossible. That's why I don't believe this is really, arresting my neighbors is not exactly what I want to do. But I would like, some of my ideas for solutions include like painting the crosswalk in front of the carousel yellow. There should be one big crosswalk maybe. And now that there's increased events because the carousel cement has been repaired and Rose Larissa Park has a better whatever seawall, more events are trying to be planned. And when it's very busy, also with the antique car people and residents in wheelchairs, walkers, families with dogs and young children, when we drive through that area, it's like, wow, nobody's on the crosswalk. So I was walking around the area myself. I'm like, where is the crosswalk? I've been talking with some neighbors. Do you know there's a crosswalk? That's not a crosswalk. It doesn't have white stripes or white dotted, whatever. There's different, and I've, gotten probably too interested in crosswalks in the past few weeks, but I'm like, yeah, this is confusing. Also signs, for example, the triangle yellow signs that might indicate, well, that's like all screwed up too. Sorry for my language. But you drive down and there would be like this beautiful, well-labeled like crosswalk to the Congregational Church is very well labeled, but I happen to know the Congregational Church right now doesn't have great attendance. That doesn't mean there shouldn't be a crosswalk there, but that one's very well labeled. One day I drove down and stopped because there were 2 guys crossing the street and a dog not on a leash. I'm like, whoa, okay, well, the one guy got across, the dog went wherever he went. I just stopped because I don't know what else I'm not seeing that's coming out of the construction site in between cars. So there was another guy. So I just rolled down my window and I just said, could you please, go back to the sidewalk and try to use the crosswalk? Well, he was belligerent and walked towards my car, definitely not on purpose, not on the crosswalk. And then I just said, could you please try to use the crosswalk? And then, he got to the other side and I'm like, oh, I'm getting louder as I'm aggravated. Then he says, you're a racist. I'm like, okay, all right. Could you please use the crosswalk? You're a racist, and then he went on, it got loud. Then he got his phone and filmed me. I'm like, I'm just trying to drive down the street, trying to help him out. Another issue is we have a lot of people hopefully, that are learning English, may have English as a second language, maybe young, may have come to our country escaping who knows what these days, Turkey or
So Nancy,
anywhere. What I'm trying to say is here's the problem. Like if you're learning English or English is your second language, or you're just learning to drive, a diamond sign underneath it that says PED in capital letters, and then underneath that an XING. You know, if
If you got a license, you should know that.
I know what it means,
Yeah.
for sure. I'm saying people who have just gotten their license, who might not speak English all the way yet, who are trying to become citizens because they have escaped from whatever, from wherever. You know, that's not really meaningful. Yeah, I mean, it should be. And I know, you know, people are supposed to know all the laws, but they don't. So I'm hoping maybe to be part of the solution in maybe making crosswalks yellow, easy for kids. Pedestrians can see, yeah, there's a yellow thing in the road, so I should look and see who's crossing. Signs, you know, that is up to city planning. I don't really know the laws about that on a state road. Bullocks Point Avenue is a state road.
So are you looking from the square all the way down to the carousel, some safe?
Yeah, it's very mixed up. And, you know, there's school crossing, but the school is closed. You know, I actually have never been the cause of an accident in my life. You can check with my insurance company,
Nice.
except for once a business owner was crossing the road in front of, I think it's Old Time School, the school.
Odom.
It's closed now. Anyway, because he doesn't have enough room in his area, he would put some cars across the street there and walk back and forth. Well, I didn't know he was crossing. The van in front of me stopped short. I was paying attention. I put my foot on the brake, but it just was, it wasn't just enough time to prevent me rear-ending that person and totaling my car. And this is because someone was walking across the street, not on a crosswalk. And so I'm like all done with that. That was years ago. I just, you know, realized this isn't going to get better unless we pay attention to it. So I have ideas for fundraising and how we might involve local community organizations like Scouts or church groups in the local community to, like, you know, we need the cooperation of the city to close down the street and get people out there. If the kids paint this crosswalks yellow, they might realize that's where we should cross the street.
We've actually had projects, Hennessy, where we paint the sidewalks and we paint like the crosswalks. They look really colorful and bright.
Right, but I'm thinking a systematic color would be a good idea. Also, I did go to the paint shop, and you know, I didn't talk yet with the owner, but I put through the manager the question. Yeah, maybe they could use a little PR. Maybe they'll donate the safety yellow paint, and we could do it neighborhood by neighborhood. The paint shop, in fact, has shops like all over Rhode Island.
So would you like to meet
Yes.
and give me these ideas?
Yeah.
We got an awesome DPW director and chief of police. So these concerns, we can bring them by them and they can give us the expert opinion. But
Well, really, as far as I think signage, crosswalks, sidewalk accessibility, what I would like everyone who's interested in this to refer to online is Green and Complete Street Ordinance.
green and
Okay,
complete.
Providence uses it. I've been driven through the east side there recently, and it's like, yeah, look, a wheelchair could get on that sidewalk. And like they have paths through the city for bikes and pedestrians so that like cars and anything on wheels and other things.
We do have a need to address sidewalks in this city.
It isn't just that section of the road that's near where
It's all
I
over the
live.
city. We
But
got
I had an issue in Rumford where I stopped to let a woman cross the street, again, not on the crosswalk, But anyway, you can't hit them just because they're not on a crosswalk, right?
Or you could.
So the thing is, like, I stopped, but the guy behind me who was in a rush to get to work was all aggravated and agitated. So, you know, I put on my flashers, I got out of my car, headed into another altercation, and I just said, if you are behind somebody, you need to be behind them and you need to be patient and polite. And the thing is, you might not have seen that there was a woman crossing in front of me, and I cannot just proceed because you're in a rush. But I can't keep having these, like, you know, do-it-yourself altercations.
Can you wrap up in a couple of minutes? And then that'll give time if there's any other responses.
I do like your idea about getting the community involved, especially the paint companies, because it would save us money so that we don't have to go into our budget.
So one of the things, and Nancy,
Just pass this down. This is the area I'm talking about for anybody who doesn't know yet.
Nancy, thank you for coming up here. I did have the opportunity to speak with Nancy briefly before another meeting a couple of weeks ago. So I think your intentions are noble, and I think the city and certainly the council and the administration feels the same way. Safety is important. I know that there are funds, Safe Street and Roads. There's a grant program that's available for funding to help implement some of these, safety. I think systematically across, where's this? I'll take the card back, thanks. I think systematically across the city, we can certainly pilot things in areas, like maybe start in Riverside where you're mentioning.
I would love to see one big yellow crosswalk between Rose Larissa and the Carousel. And when the places are both busy, a crosswalk attendant, not necessarily a police officer, to let the people all get across the street like all at once. And then after that, let the cars go, because otherwise it is set up for a real big problem.
Yeah, and I think it's a great scout project, like an Eagle Scout.
Absolutely.
I think it's a great idea.
Okay, all right, I just want to add on, because this has to go to another council meeting. But this is my terrible artwork, okay? With leftover dried up dehydrated paint, bad paint brushes, and eventually finger paints.
So we're not going to use that on the crosswalk.
No, I don't even think this should be used at all, except for to say, my idea involves a yellow section, which would be the safety, raising awareness, but also having some fundraising go on.
Okay.
And that would go into also a green portion of the plan, which would be about keeping the rest of Riverside green and East Providence as much as possible, where being green and environmentally conscious also saves money. All the money eventually would go into the blue section. So I revised it. I'm just going to pass this down. Okay. And the money that we save by actually like doing things ourselves at the community level, increasing awareness and involvement, as well as, I got better yesterday. So the thing is, the money we save could eventually, I don't know how to keep track of it or account for it. That is really, really even worse than my public speaking. But I'd like to see the money pile up and we could save. This was the green thing for environment. But we're going to get 45 million or something. Was it 45 million for an athletic facility?
No, that's not even on the
that's not
table.
happening.
So
That was
don't even put it as part of the discussion.
Oh, good, because that's a lot of money. And this is a big bucket.
Yeah.
But we can do the little yellow thing ourselves. And anyway,
No,
if you can't go down the street safely, you probably can't get to a $45 million athletic facility. And it's great to see people outside in nature, walking, riding bikes, etc. So yeah, let's go.
And that's what we're working towards.
yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry for my visual aids and very bad artwork.
Thank you.
You know, thank you for your effort and thank you for your commitment to the community.
I also want to say thank you to the mayor's office for putting up the signs at that intersection. they had, whatever, fallen off. Also to the police department for listening and very professional attention as much as they can, as well as city planning. A person just came out and spoke to me and listened to me and said, yeah, we're on it. As far as the safe city money, what I understand about that, and I never believe what I read, so I'm going to put it to whoever of you deals with Providence. The money has gone from the federal government to Rhode Island, but it seems there might be 35 million and 27 million is going to Providence. So I'm like, well, how does that happen?
Well, it's probably on a bidding process, so if you apply for the grant, then you're awarded the grant, so we have to apply for the grant.
Yeah, let's apply quickly
It's due-
because we are more needy than Providence.
It ends in July, so
All right.
it's been out in the public. Our wonderful departments will look into it and work on that.
One of my strengths is fundraising. And I know that if companies like Blue Cross and Amica see that the local scouts, church groups, whoever, community see a need for like whatever, safety, yellow paint, or whatever we need, they will kick in because they are the ones, Blue Cross, Blue Shield, Amica, other car insurance and health insurance companies that have to deal financially with the consequences of lack of common sense.
Okay, thank you. Next speaker is Heather Andrade.
Good evening. I am Heather Andrade, one of the 3 leaders of Keep Metacomet Green, a nonprofit group formed to stop the destruction of the green space on the over 100-year Metacomet Golf Course land. I am also co-leader of the group Save Our Historic Lands that was formed when KMG members discovered the lands of the Veterans Memorial Parkway, formerly known as the Barrington Parkway, were being used by the development at Kettle Point Condos. Indeed, the entrances and exits and some of the Squantum Woods land in the parkway borders are being used by the Kettle Point condos. Now, Veterans Memorial Parkway is a state roadway. In the early 1900s, the Metropolitan Park Commission, a Rhode Island state agency, bought, sold, and condemned, take by eminent domain, land to form the Barrington Parkway. The MPC was planning a ring of roads and parks around Providence, all leading in and out of the capital. The focus, besides the convenience of a new roadway, was that the green areas and open spaces are important to the well-being and mental health of the residents and travelers, and that the MPC should save this land for future generation. Lincoln Woods and Burlingame State Park are among the successes of the Metropolitan Park Commission. The famous Olmsted brothers designed the parkway with the natural beauty of the area in mind, lining the parkway with trees and foliage that would grow well together and at the same time shield the New Barrington Parkway from the winds coming off the water. The twists and turns are there to feature the scenic views of the land and waterways in their natural state, and are meant to be there on purpose. KMG and Soul have advocated for this stunning piece of nature and history to be added to the National Register of Historic Places and be upgraded from a state scenic byway to a national scenic byway. The Veterans Memorial Parkway deserves and is more than eligible for these 2 distinctions. Having the parkway on these 2 lists will put more restrictions on the developments along and on the land of the parkway. However, the powers that be in East Providence have said that because the parkway meets all the eligibilities of the National Register of Historic Places, it is unnecessary to actually apply for the National Register of Historic Places because the parkway is protected like it was on the list already. That is bull. And when I questioned what the details were of the meeting discussing the nomination and the survey needed for the National Register of Historic Places, I received a reply saying that there was nothing recorded, not even who discussed it. And how does that happen? Kettle Point condos are using the roadway and land of the state and city land for their development with apparent permission from the Scenic Byway Management, the state of Rhode Island, and the city of East Providence various committees. Using so-called National Register of Historic Place land for a developer's use isn't exactly what I think of when I hear historic preservation. And now Marshall Properties wants to do the same by moving the present entrance of Metacomet Golf Course down 700 feet towards the Wachamoket Cove. The lands of the century-old parkway, not officially on the National Register of Historic Places, and the historic Donald Ross Golf Course could be cut in two, again for another developer's wants. You know, even you, Bobby, you seem unfazed in your remark at the last meeting that it is not 1910 anymore, and progress moves along, really shocked me. You know why? Because I read and have read many of your columns throughout the years, where you write about the natural beauties and the histories of the different areas of East Providence. Yet here we are, ready to take pieces of historic land from different parts of the parkway and let developers pick the areas to be dissected and, in essence, destroy East Providence. If the parkway was a building on the National Register of Historic Places, would anyone be able to take a window out or change the structure of it? No. But because this is a roadway with green spaces on the borders, the various city committees, present company included, seem to think it is fine to destroy the historic land. It is not. And destroying more of the Veterans Memorial Parkway land should not even be considered. Let the developer work with the current entrance. Stop giving away pieces of the parkway. As a side note, although I focus on the history of the parkway, I recognize that the areas of the parkway and the golf course and the waterfront and Fort Hill are also important for the history of the Native American people who came before, following the trails that were formed by their ancestors and setting up camps along those trails. Many experts believe the land of the Metacomet Golf Course holds artifacts from these early tribes. I tend to believe the experts' words over a developer, especially if the developer's project is on the line. KMG has had many experts speak on the hazards of developing the Metacomet land, how climate change is happening, and how the Met's development will lead to more flooding, higher temperatures, loss of wildlife, among other man-made calamities. One expert, former Save the Bay director of 18 years, Kurt Spaulding, is featured on the Keep Metacomet Green Facebook page in a 2021 interview, talking about the negative effects of developing the Metacomet land. Former director of DEM and former state executive director of the USDA Farm Service Agency, W. Michael Sullivan, is featured as well, explaining the cause and effects of heat islands. I am not sure if the new members of the council are familiar with these interviews. I would think anyone who has heard these two highly respected men speaking about the scientific and environmental issues facing the Metacomet land would want to learn more. And while East Providence may have their own experts, I highly recommend each of you to follow up on the information in these interviews. And I will personally send the interviews to each one of you. And do hope that you will listen to these informative men. There has been statements made that the council is ready to move on from the subject of acquiring the Metacomet land by eminent domain. Well, the people that elected you are not. We believe that the citizens should have a say in this controversial issue. To be honest, I think politicians and developers are afraid it will pass. What needs to happen is KMG did a fiscal analysis requested by Mr. Rigo, and now we are requesting that this council do a fiscal analysis of the Metacomet. It should be done to get all the facts out to the residents and to you, because if you know the facts, then spread them, but you don't yet. I urge all of you watching tonight to also check out Keep Metacomet Green Facebook and Save Our Historic Land for information that you may not know already. Let the people decide on the eminent domain. It is too much of a huge subject to let just the people up here decide. We should all be involved. That's it. Keep Metacomet Green.
Thank you, Heather. Madam Clerk, do you have a list of anyone who signed up in the
No one has signed up. sir.
back of the room? Okay. Next item, please.
Do we want to move to whoever's here before we do the council stuff?
All those appointments, there are none. We can get by.
Excuse me, through the chair.
Councilman Fogarty.
I'd just like to make a comment since I did in the last meeting. Since 2020, I stood out on Keep Metacomet Green properties with the Keep Metacomet Green movement. 18, 19, 20, talked to many of the golfers. I've golfed there many a times. I've told my statements in the past for the preservation of this pristine golf course land. I've watched the interviews. I'm 100% in favor of keeping it green. I am not the owner. I wish I could buy it. It's been sold. I'm in favor of eminent. I was in favor of eminent domain. We can do a lot with that property, especially keeping it green. There is hot spots. Those scientists are no fool. They are very educated people. Family that I have works for Save the Bay. My family has been on 20, 30 Save the Bay excursions. I am in favor. The fish are coming, the ecosystem, the hot spots, the zoning, the changes, the way it was done before my time, I'm not happy with. I can't do nothing about it today. There's facts that we need to see. I don't feel like throwing this in the trash and letting the developer take over. They have changed plans since this group of people, 4,000 signatures, probably 2,000 real residents, a couple thousand that are from other parts of the state, are in favor of keeping it green for a reason. The neighborhood, the people, the gatherings. So, but finances, can the city afford it? Where are we with monies? Can we take it over? Do the people all want it? How many voters are you going to get to this ballot? Is it going to be feasible? Do all the council want to see more, hear more, get more facts? That's my opinion. I am for keeping East Providence green, for sure. That's it.
Thanks, Councilman. Councilman Lawson, which item do you want to move?
We have the gentleman for the Wampanoag Trail.
Did you want to, well, before that, it appears Councilman Rigo wants.
To talk up, and since Councilman Fogarty brought up an issue, I am all for, again, having a feasibility study done with some of the questions I asked in regards to running a country club, everything like that, so that we haven't put it out. And again, as I've answered emails from people from the organization, there's not going to be a special election this year on any bond issue. We're not going to do it during a special congressional election. I have quite 13 years of experience in elections, and 20% of the people coming out to vote are not going to decide the issue. So we have time. So 2024 would be the time that this would be on the ballot. So
The
maybe
property
not
will
coming out
develop
this-
by 2020.
I understand.
They're
but-
probably going to start developing the end
I
of this
understand.
year.
I know, and that's the issue we're up against. I am not going to let 20% of the people vote on a recreation center, vote on anything. I don't have a problem. I know it's a time constraint. It's timing's the issue. I have no problem with the study. You know, we study things, and a lot of the questions were answered. A lot of them weren't. And I've done research on what it costs to run a country club, insurance, et cetera. Unfortunately, we inherited a situation in January's time. This issue, recreation center, unless there was a catastrophe in the city that we had to have a referendum, so money issues will never go on the ballot as far as I'm concerned until 2024. I feel your pain.
I'm understanding that too, and
Yeah.
that's part of the reason of you won't have, well, I don't know that answer. Nobody knows the future. But also, it's tough to read the Post today and see Mr. McHenry take his golf team over to Silver Spring Golf Course. And we have local golf course here that could take them in, and I believe there's a lot of money and a lot of revenue that was left off of East Providence's revenue by letting this sit and by letting this deal go on in years ago, and not the city getting involved sooner without someone actually catching something. Let's just say something went on that I don't think that was the right thing that went on, in my opinion, of doing business. But like I said, I don't own it. Marshalls owns it. So I'm just one councilman elected by council, Ward 3, and I'm trying to do my best to do everything right for this city of East Providence that I said I would when I went door to door. And part of that is keep Metacomet green. The other part is the speed cameras, which is a whole nother subject. So we'll stay on Keep Metacomet green. This is our third annual Rhode Island High School Golf Scholarship being held at Swansea Country Club. Sold out in 6 hours, 144 golfers. Third annual. All the money goes to high school seniors. We could have done it. We should have done it. We should have owned it. I'm not a Packers fan. My mother is, but the town owns the Green Bay Packers. We could have made a lot of revenue, could have made a nice winter venue out of that whole setting, a beautiful something as far as a clubhouse gathering, weddings. I seen a lot of good, I had a good foresight for that future and keeping it green. And the 700 feet move down, I'll tell you right now, I'm against it. That next thing is the roadway. So I'll stop there and we'll move on.
Thank you, Councilman. So I think without objection, we want to go to page 6 on the agenda, move up because there are some neighbors here that are interested. Number 2, Madam Clerk, could you read number 2 in the bottom of page 6 under public hearings?
Yes, sir. An ordinance and amendment of Chapter 19 of the revised ordinances of the City of East Providence, Rhode Island, 1998, as amended, entitled zoning. The summary is section 19-95. It's a change in parcel 15, map 308, block 17, from a residential 3, R3, to a commercial 2, a C2 at 10 Wampanoag Trail.
Thank you. The applicant present, please come forward and name and address for the record.
Good evening. I want to thank you very much for moving us up. We did have a number of neighbors here. My name is Tim Chapman. My address is 349 Warren Avenue in East Providence. I represent CNC Investing Group, LLC. I have the principal, Carl Pearson, here with me. And if you are agreeable, I could go through our position, why we're here, and what we're asking for.
Sure. Give us a quick summary.
Thank you. Mr. Pearson, through his company, CNC Investing, is looking to restore and rehabilitate the former home of Dr. Pine and his office at 10 Wampanoag Trail. He requests the following use, which is 3 residential units within the current footprint of the existing house and conversion of the garage to an artist studio. He plans to have his wife's pottery business, which is a very, very small business that I think on Saturday mornings she might have some classes, but that would be the extent of that artist studio. The conversion of the property from the empty condition it is now and has been for a number of years would be to one of a multiple occupancy. I think it's 3 apartments that Mr. Pearson is looking to put into that beautiful house, renovate it, bring it up to the standards that this city demands. It's currently abutted by an adult daycare facility and across the street from the newly renovated Cumberland Farms convenience and gas facility. It's to maintain the structure without major disturbance. He does have a lot of work to do it. He'd like to keep the greenhouse and glass in the back. He'd like to keep the beautiful fireplace that's in there and the beautiful columns that will be painted and fixed up. There's the way the current layout is, he'd have to renovate it and allow for the existing construction to take place to just to move those rooms around and make them suitable apartments. There is a lot of work to be done inside. We welcome anybody to come over there. We've talked to the neighbors, a lengthy conversation before this meeting. We didn't realize that that they were interested because Mr. Pearson had gone out and talked to some of the neighbors, but not all of them. So they did show up tonight. We did, I think, allay most of their concerns. The alignment of the parking would be in the front. I do have a map that kind of shows the property. Thank you. And the parking would be in the front next to where the garage is. Mr. Pearson does not want to affect the property that's near his neighbors that right now is a beautiful lawn that he would make even better. The planning department did an excellent memo which outlines the comprehensive plan and does state in it that the parcel in question lies within an area identified as mixed use, which allows a mix of uses that includes multifamily development and the use that is identified within the applicant's petition, including the artist studio. The planning department found that the proposed uses identified in this petition are consistent with the city's comprehensive plan, which dictates that development be consistent with the overall character of the neighborhood. The memo went on to say that the multifamily and the artist studio are in keeping in with within the character of the neighborhood. And Mr. Pearson did agree to certain restrictions, which included personal convenience business, restaurants with or without live entertainment, fast food restaurants, dry cleaning businesses, cigar lounges, tattoo parlors, massage therapy businesses. There, I think, was a couple more that were added onto the ordinance that I think included, and I've got it on the, thanks. Yeah, that included the thank you, microbrewery / distillery, gasoline filling stations, and boat, kayak, or canoe rental. Thank you. So those are the certain restrictions that he's agreed to. I think he's followed all of the certain requirements of the comprehensive plan, and he respectfully requests that the memo with the attachments be entered into the record, and we're looking for your approval on this zone change. If you have any questions, we'd be glad to answer them.
Thank you, Mr. Chapman. I will say that the area in question has always intrigued me, as I've been by that, as many of us have, probably a million times. It is that big, large red brick home. And I did visit it. I think it's in Ward 3. Councilman Fogarty may have visited. We did this separately. He can speak for himself, but I went through the property, and it is intriguing and much better than the alternative of requesting to knock it down and putting up something that's contemporary looking and not attractive to the area. This will, as I understand it, and I will stand corrected, but will remain as we see it today, only cleaned up. The house, the footprint, the garage, that all stays, the large yard in the back. Before it starts to fall down, it's a beautiful property. I did go through it, and it's going to be restored. And I hope that the neighborhood, I know a couple were in favor. There may be others that didn't feel they were contacted. I know we have requirements about contacting within, 200 feet? Was that done?
Yes.
Okay, so it did meet those criteria of contacting those within 200 feet. Maybe someone just beyond that didn't. And this is a public hearing, so anyone, I will ask in a second if anyone wants to speak. But not unlike the Cumberland Farms property across the street, I think this would add to the neighborhood. I haven't met anyone who doesn't like what happened at that Cumberland Farm corner, from the old gas station to what is there now. And I think this other corner, which we have talked about in the past, needs some work. And so I'll reserve right to hear after hearing from everyone, but I'm certainly impressed with the proposal. I don't know if Councilman Fogarty, if you want to add anything to that.
Absolutely. Thank you, Chairman. I met with both of them. I met with some of the residents. I was concerned when I saw some of the residents who've known me, because I went house to house in that whole neighborhood area running. So surprising after we talked and met, it's been a month, and to see them here against it. So I'm very thankful you worked it out. Talk to them. It's going to revitalize the neighborhood. And that's all I have to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Before I open it up to the general public, anyone else on the council wish to?
When I know the Arts Council years ago, we were advocating to allow artists to have like home studios where they could sell their wares. So I'd like the idea. Your wife's a potter, and she'll be able to sell some wares from, because artists, they can't afford a storefront. So being able to do it out of their home. So I like this. I think it's a good idea.
Thank you.
Sir, I know you're paying Mr. Chapman a lot of money. Do you want to say anything yourself? Yeah.
I wish.
Thank you very much. Appreciate you moving us up. We're excited about the renovation, restoration of this Grand Dame kind of old home. And we considered all kinds of things when we were interested in buying it. But the character of the area and its ability to kind of be an entry point to the Kent Heights area was important to look at this property for what it is. And it's a very important property, we think, for EP, and we wanted to keep it as beautiful as we could. So we appreciate your consideration tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
I also wanted to point out that Mr. Pearson owns a home with his wife in Riverside, and also owns a house right across the street from me in Riverside as well. And he's been a wonderful landlord. So if there's any fears about him taking care of his properties and upholding his word, he's been on board with everything.
Good to hear. Thank you. This is a public hearing. Is there anyone here that would like to speak in favor or against this proposal? As I understand, Mr. Solicitor, there are two proposals that we will be entertaining
Correct. So we're just focusing on this one right now.
right now. Just, is there anyone here, I'll ask again, that wants to speak in favor of or against? And the third time, anyone else like to come forward at this time? Okay, counsel, what is your pleasure?
I'd like to make a motion.
You can just close the public hearing, please.
Thanks. Okay, we'll close this portion of the public hearing. We have another measure right after this.
No, just close the public hearing. Now you can vote on the measure.
Right. Okay, so we will,
I'll make a motion to accept.
Second?
motion by Councilman Fogarty, seconded by Councilman Lawson.
I just want to make it clear. So we're passing the ordinance as presented with the limitations therein, correct?
Correct.
As included in our package.
The ordinance as
what you're
we
looking
have
for,
in
right?
front of us, nothing's changed, just as we have listed. Okay, no amendments to that, no changes. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have that unanimously. Madam Clerk, could you read the next ordinance?
Council
Thank you.
President?
Appreciate it very much. Thanks for moving us up as well.
Yeah.
welcome.
We also have Dominic and Chief Francis Coney for items.
So at this point, let's just go back.
People waiting.
There's another zone change.
Another zone change.
There's another zone change for Dominic. That's what we're doing next.
Yeah, that's the Dominic one.
C3, yeah. C3 is another zone change.
Yeah. I'm here for you.
Next item, an ordinance and amendment of Chapter 19 of the revised ordinances of the City of East Providence, Rhode Island, 1998, as amended, entitled zoning. The summary is Section 19-95, change parcel 1, map 309, block 13, from residential 3, R3, to commercial 2, C2 at 2876 Pawtucket Avenue. Requested by Thomas Costa, the applicant and the owner.
Thank you. The applicant present, please come forward and give your name and address. Thank you. Please proceed, your name and address.
Good evening, Attorney Tom Mirza for Tom Costa. My East Providence business address is 197 Taunton Avenue here in East Providence. And with me is the petitioner, Tom Costa, Miller Avenue, also of East Providence.
Thank you. You want to describe your proposal briefly?
There's a Tom's Building, 2876 Pawtucket Avenue is basically a commercial building. It's been used that way for 10, 20 plus years. And this is really an attempt to zone it back to its actual use rather than changing the zoning to something new. I think at the end of the report, Ed Pimentel's comments on the property are pretty much all we need to discuss. Is it's historically been used as a commercial property, and coming back for special use permits over and over again for different uses doesn't make sense. So the recommendation is to zone it as it's been used. Fairly straightforward, small commercial building, small property with limited certainly virtually no residential use.
Thank you. We're not requesting any additions or anything.
No, nothing structural, nothing changing to the property.
I think, Councilman, this is in Ward 1. Do you have a specific concern? Or?
Mr. Costa lives in Ward 1. This is in Ward 3. This is right up. This is past.
Oh, that's a business. Right.
Yeah, it's past. It's Ward 3.
Any concerns, Councilman?
Absolutely not. Very, very happy for him.
A public hearing. Is anyone present who'd like to speak for or against? Okay, you'd have to come forward.
So yes, I know the area, exactly what it is, but what is going to go in there?
Well, that remains to be seen.
All right, so that'll be discussed later? Okay, just making sure.
Thank you. Sure.
Yeah, Heather, they'd have to come for a license for
Yeah,
any
the
kind of
license,
business type.
and
Yeah.
the use and all of that. Sure. Thank you. Heather, anyone else like to ask a question or speak in favor or against? Hearing none, what is your pleasure?
I'll make the motion to approve.
Can I just ask, is
Sure.
it an abandoned building right now? No, does it have a,
There is no tenant presently.
okay, what was the previous tenant?
Cash register sales.
Thank you, Councilwoman. I want to repeat the motion. Was it Councilman Fogarty?
Yes, I'll make a motion to accept.
I'll second that motion.
Councilman Fogarty makes the motion to accept. Councilman Rego seconds. All in favor, say aye.
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 Public hearing is now closed. Any opposed? The ayes have it unanimously. Thank you and good luck.
Thank you very much. We appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Just kudos to the planning department. They were extremely helpful with getting us through this process.
Thank you. We appreciate the work of our planning department.
Dominic's all right. It's also his birthday, by the way.
Oh, we should have him do the Pledge of Allegiance.
The council president was going to sing to him.
Happy birthday, Dominic.
Madam Clerk, let's return back to where we left off. We haven't confused you by now.
Yes, sir.
The council members.
Next item is council members. The first item is an overview of the inaugural Mayor's Cup Middle School Games, April 25th, 2023. Discussion only. Council President Roberts.
This is just a quick thank you to all of those who were involved in the first annual Mayor's Cup Middle School tournament. It involved the boys' baseball teams, the girls' softball teams, and it was held at the new high school athletic complex simultaneously. Baseball and softball were going on. May sound frivolous, but I want to mention it because a large amount of people from the community were there. It was very well received. It was just a nice day, a happy day of families coming out and enjoying, it might sound hokey, the Mayor's Cup, you know, like Mayberry, but it was truly well received by everybody. And the games were one-run games. And each school went back with the Mayor's Cup. Riverside Middle School took the girls, and Martin Middle School took the boys' trophy. And they will sit in the school for a year. Next year, we will have this again. So that's all. Just a good feeling announcement. Thank you to all of those involved. Madam Clerk, next.
Next is item 2. Councilman Lawson, would you like to table?
Oh, let's do it.
Want to do it? Okay. The proposed community center. A, possible partners. B, location of community center. C, size and scope of the community center. D, workshop/public input of meetings. Discussion only. Councilman Lawson.
Okay, so I was going to pull this because the mayor told me that they're looking to redo some things. So out of respect to that, I was going to. But let me just say, this is going to be a big thing. Napoleon, you'll be happy to hear I now call it the community center. since this was proposed, 2 months ago, I've been getting a lot of input, and I'm committed 100% to building a community center. The size and scope needs to be discussed. The location, that's one, if you ask me, the biggest thing they're talking about is the location. They can't understand why we're at the worst intersection in the city. Partners, I got to go meet with the Boys and Girls Club. They do a lot that they could be a great partner with the community center. There's also all our other local, We Share Hope and all these other wonderful nonprofits that could utilize it. Because the size and scope of this is so great, I think the more we keep talking and coming to consensus together with the administration, the better we're going to be. If we could have some maybe workshops at a council meeting, let the community come, give their thoughts as well. Again, I am committed to helping the mayor get this done. It is needed. It's been voted on twice by townies, maybe not the size and scope, but the people of East Providence deserve a community center. So I just wanted to keep this conversation going. So again, all it says is discussion only. And I hope we're still engaging all the constituents out there, getting their feedback. What does a community center look like to them? Get their feedback. I agree with the workforce component. I think that's a great idea. And utilizing the partners to come together to help run, not just, put programming, but to help run a community center. So I look forward to working with the administration more and my 4 other council members here, and I think we can come up with something affordable and very nice, very nice. So,
Thank you. So for discussion, we're not voting on anything, sir.
no, there was never nothing to vote, but
be
if
continued,
anybody has
right.
ideas.
Yeah, very good. Thank you, sir. Next, Madam Clerk,
Next item, scheduled list of street repaving and sidewalk project, proposed funding allocation for the projects. Discussion only, Councilwoman Souza.
Thank you. So I put this on the docket because, as we know, we have entered into the spring season, and we will be hopefully starting the project for street repaving and sidewalks. I was just looking to find out if we have, if we have a list that can be shared with the public and the council about the project for this year and or how much we have allocated. I believe I know the answer to some of those questions, but just for the public to discuss, because I know to Nancy, our speaker earlier regarding safety, I think walks and sidewalks, having them done strategically throughout the city. So I know we've been working on that. I think there's a lot still to go, but we need to continue to identify high problematic areas of high pedestrians or maybe school zones or places around public walkways that businesses and such that need to be addressed in the immediate. So thank you.
Good evening, Council. So, Councilman Souza, we have about, I want to say just shy of $2 million remaining in pavement money. I will provide the council with a list of proposed roadways. However, I would like to make it clear that we did just recently go back out to bid as our contract ended with Pawtucket Hot Mix, and the numbers that we've been seeing throughout the state and other municipalities are a little scary. They're almost double, in some cases triple what we currently were paying to pave roads. So the $2 million is not going to go very far. But we hope with, in conjunction with the money that we have, as well as the water main cleaning and lining projects, we're hoping to sort of encompass significant number of the roads on this list, but to be determined, subject to how the bids come in. So
I just have a question based on these roads that you've provided for us. Is this projected road work based on the previous director's survey of all of the streets and where they fell in terms of necessity?
correct. Yeah, so we're close to the end. We did a survey, a long time ago. I'm not sure exactly when, where the city staff actually drove every single roadway in the city, surveyed the roads. So we're coming up this list, and I apologize, I handed mine with, along with it. Thank you. This list is sort of the last of those roads. As you know, we did just recently LiDAR scan the entire city using a new technology that actually provides a grading system every 20 feet through for every single road in the city. So we're in the process of working with the engineer to finalize that report, and we'll come before the council to present that. So this encompasses a good majority of what's left. There might still be some that are not on this list that will be encompassed in the cleaning and lining, which I know we've discussed in the past, in the phase 2 portion of the cleaning and lining. So some of the roads that are not on this list that you're likely concerned with are part of the phase 2 portion of the cleaning and lining. So I can provide you an updated list of those roadways as well.
Yeah, so.
And if you have concerns, I mean, feel free to reach out to
For
me.
me, in Ward 2, when I look at this list, those roads certainly require or are entitled to repaving. There are definitely neighborhoods that have been in desolate need of repair. Way more, I would say, if we had to scale them on a 1 to 5, there 5 being the worst. These are 5s, and I think that some of these that are on this list, I'm not.
Yeah, and we're
3 or a 2 at best.
Yeah, and we're very aware of that. Unfortunately, what we're trying to do is stay ahead of, utility improvements. So we want to do any utility improvements before we go and repave a roadway. So a lot of the roads that I'm sure you're questioning, a large portion of Ward 2 is still yet to be cleaned and lined, the water main. So as you know, we're going to the Infrastructure Bank for $26 million bond for the water that the council recently approved. And those roads should, will be encompassed within that project.
So the cost of repaving those roads will come out of that infrastructure bond?
Correct. After the cleaning and lining occurs, because we'll have to dig up the road in some locations. And then, from that point, we'll check with the gas company and ensure that they don't have any work. And then we'll go ahead and pave.
Yeah, because I'm just really concerned that a lot of the roads that are really super poor, again, 5s, have not been addressed since we started this project. And I mean, when I say started this project, when the council allocated the $10 million, certainly throughout the city, we've hit, a lot of important streets, but I feel like, again, it's now 6 years into it, and we still haven't addressed streets that are really poor, and other streets that are not so poor are being done first, which I don't think makes any sense. And we know that and I understand the part where you have to do the gas and the utilities first, and that was something that when we discussed this whole big picture plan, it was with the understanding that we would be communicating what our needs were to them so that they could be doing those utilities first in those areas so that we could address those streets. But I feel confident that if these funds are going to be allocated in that infrastructure bond to repairing these streets, then that makes me feel a little bit more reassured because I don't want to get to a point where the city now will not be able to allocate enough sufficient funds to reduce streets, and then with the increased cost, we're back to where we were, 15 years ago, where there was a street or 2 a year that was being paved, and what led to this citywide disaster in roadways.
Yeah, we'll come before the council, like I mentioned. We did do that LiDAR scan. There are still a significant number of roads in Ward 2, due to the cleaning and lining. But there are a lot of techniques nowadays in pavement preservation, rather than doing what we're currently doing now and just attacking the worst first is what so there are a lot of techniques that help to preserve roadways. So ideally, it'd be great to start to build some of that into our capital planning, so that we can a road that would normally last X number of years might last double. But yeah, we can certainly speak separately regarding some of the concerns in Ward 2, because I know a lot of those will be addressed with the cleaning and lining.
That's good to hear, because I mean, it is highly traveled areas, and we do have a lot of congestion, so
Yeah.
making it better, and we'll probably have less claims
Yep.
because of it, which will save the city on the back end.
Yeah, we-
Overall safer.
Yep, and we understand that. I mean, we're committed to getting the cleaning and lining done. It's just, it's $26.1 million. It's not
Money.
short money, so.
And I appreciate you saying that you're already forward thinking of ways that we're going to be maintaining and preserving, because, there are a lot of ways to do that, and I'm glad that's something that's in your plan and in your thought process in terms of budgeting and coming to the city, because I think that's going to save us a lot in the long
Yeah.
run.
The more we preserve, the less we'll spend in the long run. So that's extremely important.
So thank you for that.
Yep.
Dan, for my knowledge, method, reclaim is kind of you rebuild the road, you bring it right down. What's M&O, what's CIR, and what's the bottom one? OL? Is there different styles of what we're doing on these roads?
Yep. So reclaiming, mill and overlay. Reclaiming is when you actually tear up the entire roadway surface
Rebuilding it.
and rebuild the whole roadway from scratch. It's littered with potholes. You can't pave over it.
Yep.
Where a mill and overlay, the roadway surface is in decent condition. We take off, 2 to 3 inches, and you overlay with, 2 to 3 inches of asphalt on
Okay.
top of that. So
And CIR? Number 5.
yeah, cold in place recycling. So it's just a different form of milling and overlaying. It's somewhat of a newer technology that we're actually going to try on a few roadways. This is actually asphalt that's put down that's not actually heated. It's just a different type of process. So think of it as a mill and overlay.
Okay.
Something that can be driven on a lot sooner than traditional pavement.
Is it a price difference? Is it?
It's starting to actually become a little bit cheaper. So we're hoping to, we've included some additional technologies and different paving methods in this new contract. So we're hoping to see some cost savings, but.
And I know it's a little off. If you get a chance, can you go by the Boys Club on Williams Ave? The sidewalks in front of it could use some attention. And it's not a lot. It's maybe, 100 feet or so? But we were there the other day, and you got kids walking on that, and
Yeah.
sorry to hijack your item, Anna.
Well, that's okay, because that was the second part. So do we have, because it's road sidewalk, we have a list of sidewalks that we are also planning to address.
We do. That is actually, I was having some computer issues and wasn't able to print that. But that one is on the city website. That was included as part of the sidewalk proposal that we put out. And I'll be happy to email that to you. As you know, when the council, approved this the last time around, a significant amount of that money was going towards Pawtucket Avenue, unfortunately. So we've tried doing our best in saving sections that are, in decent shape to try to stretch the funds. As you know, the contract came in at 1.5. We only had 1 million. So we're also looking to see where we can kind of save funds to stretch and get the most out of. But smaller projects like Councilman Lawson mentioned, I mean, that's stuff that highway crews, ourselves as DPW, can take care of. So.
Yeah, if we could just have what's left in that, and what sidewalks are anticipated on being done with that we're trying to stretch.
What's left in funding? Okay, yeah, we can certainly provide that. Yep.
On that note on sidewalks, on my walk last night on Bishop Avenue, in front of we share an elementary and middle school together that we graduated from, and since it is the largest income source for the city as far as tickets are concerned, St. Margaret's on Bishop Avenue, where most of the kids come, that sidewalk and some of the curbing needs to be repaired. So I don't know, when last time you looked at it, but I noticed it based on the docket. And since St. Margaret's is the source of a lot of revenue for the city, I would hope that it would get there.
We will have our highway department look at it and make repairs accordingly.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Director. You might as well stay there.
I got a
Madam
few.
Clerk, can you read the next item, please?
Yes, sir. Repair of city curb on Thatcher Street, Wilson Avenue to Hoyt Avenue. Discussion only. Vice President Rego.
Mr. Director, when you were away on your maternity leave, congratulations. Thank you. It was brought up, a couple of the neighbors there, and not looking for the whole street, but over the course of years, and not just this past year, we didn't have to plow that often, but the plows have destroyed some of the curbing on that initial part of Thatcher, mostly from the Wilson Avenue down to the first intersection. So it's something to look at, because obviously it's now a mess. So the curbing's gone. It needs some repairs to the curbs that were caused again by the plows, not, over the years. So it just needs some repairs. I know, talked about $150,000. I don't see it, but again, I haven't done it.
It's the number that came in the bid. I talked to Eric today.
It's, I don't think it's not the whole street. It's just certain, there's like 2 or 3 sections.
So I went out there this afternoon. I observed what you're mentioning. And there are some sections of, it seems like residents have probably paid to put in granite curbing. Majority of it's concrete. We did run the numbers again. Not $90 a linear foot. That's the number we got. Lowest bid from the paving contract, and $115 a linear foot for some radius curbing. And it comes out to $140,000 if we want to do the curbing on that street. So there's a lot of curb in that condition throughout the city.
Yeah.
It's something that, unfortunately, when you're given $1 million to pave streets, you're going to focus on the roadway surface rather than, $100 a linear foot to replace curbing. So it's something, we do our best to prioritize, and
I totally understand. I'd rather have the sidewalks in front of St. Margaret's done.
We'll take care of that for you.
Thank you, Councilman. Next, Madam Clerk.
Next, American flag placement on the Memorial Day parade route. Discussion only. Councilman Lawson.
So Memorial Day down in Riverside, we have a parade every year. It's going on for generations. So every year the city helps out. They got the traffic detail. I believe the organizers of the parade already put in that requesting for the stage to be set up for parade review. I was told there's nothing else as far as money for food and stuff, that they're all set. So the last part is the flags that we lined the parade route. I saw Willard Ave. I'm assuming they're not going to go there because of the banners, but on Bullock's Point.
We're going to be installing the banners throughout the entire parade route. So we're in the process.
What about our flags?
The flags were in very bad shape. So the idea was to replace with these new banners,
Okay.
where we'd have the ability and flexibility, throughout the season to change them for, holidays,
Gotcha.
so on and so forth.
All right, because those flags, that was a community effort. It was the Veterans Committee and the community fundraise. We bought those flags. Donations were given in the name of veterans to do that. If they're in bad shape,
They're
I
in.
can understand that.
Yeah,
It's
so-
been about 4 or 5 years. So
So we
the
sort of
weather
made
and stuff.
we made the decision of whether we purchase all new flags or go
Gotcha.
with a banner.
And those weren't cheap, the flags.
The flags weren't cheap and the banners weren't cheap either, but the flags were a lot more expensive.
Right.
And we thought that, it'd be a good opportunity to showcase Riverside and, put up banners that throughout the year to.
So we'll be able to line Bullock's Point with those flags. I saw Willard.
Our
It looks
bucket,
gorgeous.
our
Looks
bucket
gorgeous.
truck broke down. We sent it for repair and we just got it back yesterday. So
Okay.
we're going to be back on it.
So by the
weather
parade,
permitting.
we'll have.
Oh yeah, they'll be up by the
banners.
parade.
And you guys set up the stage for the
Yes.
parade review.
Yep.
Okay.
Parks was made aware of that. So
Okay.
we'll be taking-
Next meeting, I'll probably have an announcement of how people want to join us for the parade. Great event. It's awesome. Showcases little leagues and community groups and, of course, veterans and those who gave all in service of this country. So thank you. And the banners actually look gorgeous. They do.
Great.
Thank you.
So if I could just, through the chair, piggyback off of this, one of the things that I have mentioned in the past, and I still think is important, is our entryway into the city and the lack of this kind of patriotism in the city coming into it. So I think it's amazing that they have that down in Riverside on multiple streets. And I know in Rumford that there's certain sections that also have it, but it's never been done in the along Taunton Avenue or Waterman Avenue, which I think everybody comes in through the city, visitors, residents alike. And it's kind of it's disheartening that that part of the city never has anything like flags or things.
Yeah, we certainly have intentions of doing that. As I'm not sure if you've noticed, but all of the exterior poles have been removed and were replaced with new poles. So the hope is to put up banners, similar in similar fashion. I mean, the planning department's working quite a bit in placemaking throughout the city. So that is something that they're looking at, potentially deploying, in other areas. So
I mean, I don't think that obviously, because there's a cost associated with everything.
Yep.
So I'm not saying that every single pole, but certainly staggered every other, every 2, every 3, just to, my rule of thought is, you get some this year, you get some next year, you get some the following year, and then over the course of 5 years, you're able to line the whole area and look presentable. So I think if we start even doing half a dozen, it's better than 0, which has been that way forever.
yeah, and it's in the works. I mean, like I said, the poles have been down for quite some time. We did have the new banners with the geese that said "Welcome to East Providence." Those were up. Unfortunately, they had to come down. They looked really nice, but we do intend on putting those back up.
Appreciate that.
Yep.
Why did they have to come down?
All of the light poles on the outside of the,
Gotcha.
were removed. Had to be removed. They were all rotting. So
Thank you. We were number 6, Madam Clerk.
Yes, sir. Update on progress of work being done at Freedom Green and Glen Lyon Field and Rumford Gardens. Discussion only. Council Vice President Rego.
Thank you. It's come to my attention, is there a way we can talk to the people from Agawam? Because they're saying that the agreement has ended for them to maintain the grass cutting. It was told the President Rodrick and myself that Agawam was not going to maintain cutting of the grass. Is that
yes,
correct?
That is correct.
Have we reached out to them? I mean, it's a simple thing. I think being a good neighbor and everything like that,
We
wouldn't
signed
mind
an
doing it.
agreement. We signed an agreement. The law office can certainly prepare that for you or give that to you. But that was the agreement that at the end of this year.
Yeah, I mean, it was like a 10-year contract or something like that.
At first, it was indefinitely.
Yeah.
And then the city council, I'm not sure in what year, voted to make a change to that agreement. This was going back, I think, about 10 years.
Yeah.
To stop the maintenance of that park. So
Have we reached out? I mean, through you or the administration, or anybody reached out to Agawam, asking them if they wouldn't mind continuing it? I mean, it just takes a little workload off of you. I know you got a lot going on. I'm just thinking.
I want to say that the answer to that is probably going to be no. They barely met the agreement, requirements of the agreement. So we do have them. They did agree to go out there and edge, and give us a somewhat of a fresh start to begin maintaining that. But yeah, it's something that
Through the chair. Excuse me. So,
Councilman Fogarty.
so Dan, you're telling me that you had to go back anyway after they cut it?
No, they did a reasonable job. They didn't fertilize. Part of the agreement was fertilization, edging flower beds, stuff like that. That wasn't always done.
So you have to go back.
Well, we're going to have them address some of the issues before, it's essentially turned back over to the city. So, yep.
It sounds like, they're kind of done with the project. We could reach out to them, but I don't think they want to expend any more energy or funds on cleaning.
I think they got greens to roll and maintain.
And my other thing is the Little League's asking me, it's that time of year, they're losing foul balls into the woods up there.
Yeah.
Where the netting is.
The answer is the same as the last time. I just reached out to Tony just before this meeting, and he had reached out to a vendor. They hadn't gotten back to him. So I need to talk to him tomorrow and have him find another solution, because it's been far too long, in my opinion.
That wasn't bad. That wasn't like going to the dentist, was it, Dan? Those questions I asked you?
No.
Very simple, easy, right?
They were fine.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Next,
Next item, Kent Field Park renovation, discussion only. Council President Rodrick and Councilman Fogarty.
This is just a quick update because Councilman Fogarty and I have received a few phone calls from neighbors in Kent Heights, and they were positive calls. They were just inquiring about the progress of the major project that is slated to begin at Kent Field, or as the newer, younger residents call it, Kent Park. So we just wanted to report, and I'll let Councilman Fogarty add, but the plans are basically 90% complete. The issue, and Mr. Director, I'm sure you'll agree, is getting the Rhode Island Department of Environmental Management just to a meeting. That has to be cleared before we put a shovel in the ground, because as I've stated several times before to people who don't remember, that was the city landfill at one point, and that has to be cleared by DEM, and is because it is an old capped landfill. And as soon as that happens, and we expect to go out to bid, and maybe within 3 weeks or so, we'll get going. Councilman, did you find anything different? Do you want to add to the neighborhood on that?
Oh, I'm new to the planning and seeing what's happening as the season comes, so I'm just tagging along with interest, but
Yep, so that project is going to go forward, just as was described that day at the community meeting at the Fuller Learning Center. So, you know what, every city in town is facing some delays with vendors, even like getting a net, with laborers of vendors, with DEM regulations. So on our end, we're ready to go in many instances, but there is red tape, some of it going back to COVID. We heard tonight where some paving is now doubling in price from vendors. It's way of the world. Is that essentially correct, Mr. Director, that about the Kent Heights project?
Yeah, I can add a little bit to that. So we had to do some boring, dig some test pits in the area to determine actually where the trash layer was, because DEM does have certain requirements of a certain amount of fill above that trash layer. So we're in communication with a civil engineer who's working with the landscape architect that we awarded this project to. And they're in the process of, evaluating that and ensuring that we don't have to add or where we have the potential to maybe remove some material to create, one of the pollinator gardens that, are proposed there. We want to ensure that, we're meeting DEM's requirements. So
If you can do me a favor, in about 1967, when that was open, my parents threw out a box of old vinyl albums that I had in that landfill.
I found them there.
If you find them, I would like them back.
Well, they're in my basement.
There were some 45s, Beatles, Beach Boys.
I'll let you know.
Thank you. Let me know. Madam Clerk, next item.
It might be in somebody's fire pit.
Yeah.
Next item, traffic study / speed analysis on Don Avenue and Kelly Avenue, discussion only. Council Vice President Rigo.
Thank you. There has been traffic studies on Don Avenue, and what I'm looking for now is the neighbors are requesting on both Don Avenue and Kelly Avenue, especially now since the baseball season started going up to Glenline Field, is the speed indicators. I don't know where we are, but Don Avenue northbound from Greenwood to Pawtucket Avenue certainly shows that there's over 2,000 cars going northbound in a week's time. And with the average speed of 32 miles an hour down there with the young children and everything like that, if there's two streets, I should say, that deserves the indicating lights, and there's a lot, but these two definitely meet the parameters. And it would be the people of Ward 1 in those two streets would deeply appreciate.
They're on the list, similar to Council President's point with supply chain.
Thank you.
Yeah, 26 weeks for little radar signs.
Well, I'll just keep on letting people know, hopefully.
Dan, those record speeds?
They
So-
they do record, yes.
So you can get an average.
We can pull, we're able to pull data from the actual sign to actually see, whether speed is trending down with the placement of that sign or, whether it stays the same.
Right.
And what's nice is that we'll have the ability to use the data that the PD has collected, in the past to compare it to those signs.
There's definitely a perception versus reality when it comes to speeding in the city.
Yes.
And those signs being able to give us that data that says, well, the average is like 26. When the speed
25.
limit is 25, it's
Standing
good.
on the side of the road, looking at someone doing 25 feels fast.
Exactly.
It's
Exactly.
a lot of it is perception.
Exactly. So, okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Madam Clerk.
One more for me.
We can add a couple for you. Next item, street flooding concern on Ferris Avenue off Newport Ave. Discussion only. Council Vice President Rigo.
Very timely with all this rain.
Exactly. Having spoke with former Councilman Brito and now present State Senator Brito, we've been talking about this issue, and he's had the DOT address the Newport Avenue section of flood, and they've cleared out the drains, did all their work and everything like that. And the part of Ferris Avenue I'm talking about is from Ferris, the Newport Avenue, Ferris to the intersection of Whedon, where it tends to flood a lot in Circle Street around there. So I didn't know where we stood. Last year during the heavy flood season, there were pictures of neighbors and heavy flooding, a couple of feet of rain.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if DOT actually fixed the issue because all the drainage flows to.
They're saying,
Newport Ave.
I'll send you the email that Bobby sent me. So I'll send you that email.
I haven't. So what we can do is certainly add that area of the system to our existing CCTV contract to actually determine if there are any defects in the pipe. And we'll TV it and clean it, with this existing contract.
Yeah, that's what I was looking to see if that was on the schedule, because I know you're in the process.
Yep. Yeah. What we're starting to realize is that a lot of the pipes are actually in good condition, and it might just be a capacity issue, which would be a little more extensive, but we can report back once we.
Right. I thank you for answering my 4 or 5 questions tonight. It's deeply appreciated.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Madam Clerk, before we continue, without objection, I'd like to move up the city solicitor's report so that if our police chief is here for that purpose as
And
well
the
as
resolution for the cameras.
and the block cameras for that matter. What's that? No, we'll get back to your stop sign. Don't worry. So without objection, Mr. Solicitor, if you would continue with your report.
Thank you. As you know, the council met in executive session to review the incorporation of the prior approved tentative agreement into the final police contract. As you know, the tentative agreement was previously approved by the previous council, and this was just a ministerial step to incorporate those changes into the contract and have the council ratify that contract. That contract was ratified by a vote of 5-0. I also want to thank, I have the opportunity to thank the police union leadership, particularly President Ripke, and the negotiating team that we had, which included the chief and the director of administration. The negotiations were very cordial, fair. They were hard, but everyone did so in a good faith manner, and I appreciate their give and take during the whole process. I appreciate the council finally ratifying the hopefully a very easy to read contract that we've decided to rewrite. So thank you, and that's the only thing that happened in executive session, except when I was present. So okay.
Thank you. Councilwoman Souza, if you want to just briefly, without getting into specifics, let everyone know our next step with
So the council discussed the applicants for the city clerk's position. They will be sending out and pending approval, appointing a city clerk in the near future.
Thank you, and thank you for your work on that. Also, without objection, I'd like to move on page 8 to number 3. Madam Clerk, if you could read that resolution, page 8 in the docket, number 3.
Yes, sir. Resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into an agreement for the purchase of a technology platform for automatic license plate detection for the police department. The sponsor is Council Vice President Rego and Councilman Lawson.
Before we go to the police chief, council members, do you want to preface with any comments? Or you want to let the chief start?
So these cameras are license plate readers.
Back up a little from the mic.
How's this? Check. 1, 2, 2, 2, check.
Perfect.
So these are not speed cameras. They're not an enforcement tool. Nobody is going to get a ticket. These cameras are an investigative tool for the East Providence Police Department. Basically, it's a camera that takes a picture of the back of a car at various points throughout the city. And unless your vehicle is a vehicle that has people looking for you, you're not going to have any negative effect. You're not going to get a ticket. The data is stored for 30 days and then it's expunged. There's a full audit set up where you could tell who accessed the system, when they accessed it, for what purpose, and what were they looking for. I had conversations with the chief, and he brought in the vendor who gave us a good overview. I think this is a strong tool. What really swayed me is, God forbid there's an Amber Alert in the city, and we don't give the police department a tool that could quickly identify and locate a missing child, or God forbid there's another murder or armed robbery, or I shouldn't say another like it happens often, but so I strongly support this for the police department. I told the chief, make sure you get what you need to keep us safe. And I'm very comfortable after talking with him, the plan laid out, the number of cameras he's asking for and the purpose of them. And I really hope that my fellow council members feel the same way about giving the EPPD a tool
And when
like
you
this.
say, you don't worry if someone's looking for you, by looking for you, you mean you're a suspect in a crime.
So if you're in a database, and Chief could better explain this, but if you're in a database that they're looking for, my Kia Sorento, and I pop up on this camera, they can come look for me.
Right. Councilman, you want to add to that, or the chief?
Yes, I agree with a lot what Councilman Lawson had to say when we sat down with the chief and had the presentation made by the company. This is not a speed. This isn't another speed. More speed cameras in the city. This is a tool to help law enforcement go after the people, go after the bad guys. And if you do nothing wrong, there's nothing to worry about. And just Saturday night, if you probably saw it on TV, a lot of the TV stations had it. An innocent gentleman crossing the street in Providence at LaSalle Bakery gets hit by a car, hit and run. The poor gentleman there, 78 years old, minding his own business. They got a description of the car. If we have this in place, when the investigating officers go there, they'll get the license plate, and that person who walked away from leaving and somebody dying there can get apprehended. It's a tool to help. It isn't a tool to be to hurt anybody.
Thank you. Chief Francesconi, would you like to proceed?
I think Councilman Lawson really summed it up very well. I mean, this is a tremendous public safety tool. It's an incredible investigatory tool. It gives us real-time alerts in certain situations. If there's a stolen vehicle that passes one of the cameras, an Amber Alert, a nationally wanted person, it doesn't, it's not used for traffic enforcement. It does not, it's not tied to any type of personal identifiable information. It takes a picture of the rear of the vehicle, which is stored for 30 days, and that's it. Then it's deleted from the system, unless, of course, we need a specific piece of information, then we can retain that. This information is ours. It's not sold by this company in any way, shape, or form. It's a picture, and that's all it is. It has a tremendous track record in solving crime in our area and throughout the country. Cranston has them, Warwick, Providence, and I hear tremendous success stories of how these cameras have assisted their police officers in solving crime. I spoke to some of you when we met with the company. Oftentimes when we go to a call for service, we'll get little tidbits of information. The car was this color. It may have been a partial plate of this. There may have been a bumper sticker, but this will help us put that information together in an easily searchable format. So it really is, an incredible tool. We'll also have a transparency portal, which allows the public. It's a forward-facing website that shows, how many searches we've done, what success we've had with it. It lists the metrics of the system that the public can see. All of this is it's all easily audited. Everything leaves an audit trail. Officers can't simply go into the system on a fishing expedition. There has to be an associated case number with it. We have in our policy that we audit. My Office of Professional Standards does an audit 4 times a year, looking at 40 random searches to make sure we're complying with policy. Make sure if there are any issues, we address them immediately. And what I like to also mention when it comes to this, we handle very sensitive information on a daily basis. And we have strict guidelines in place on how that information is handled. Our officers know that, and it's highly regulated, and it's used for very specific reasons, law enforcement purposes only. So we're very, very familiar with handling, information.
Chief, could you explain the funding for this?
Yes. So this is going to be funded by asset forfeiture. The proposed contract is a 5-year contract, which saves us a pretty significant amount of money. Currently, the cameras are $2,500 each. We were grandfathered into that price. Anyone else, a new customer, it's $3,000 a camera, and we're able to preserve that $2,500 for 5 years. It's $2,500 per camera per year for 5 years, as opposed to $3,000 or more if we didn't enter that 5-year contract. It's the same with the one-time fee to erect the cameras. It's $350. We were grandfathered into that also. Currently, it's $650. So in total, over the 5 years, it's just over $64,000 savings.
And totally covered by asset forfeiture and no budget line items?
That's correct. That's correct. And we also have a safeguard in place because it is a 5-year contract, which is right on our order form. If by chance any legislative body, local, state, federal, limited or outright banned the cameras, we would get the money back. So if there was 2 years left in that contract, we would see those funds returned. So it's an additional safeguard we sought.
And no one here from the city council or anybody other than you and law enforcement can access these, right? We can't come in and say, I'd like to see what happened last night on.
That's correct.
So
yes, this is
strictly law enforcement.
This is a law enforcement tool only. Yes, to be used for law enforcement purposes only.
In the committance of a suspicious activity or crime, not just random viewing.
That's correct, and that's all spelled out in our policy very, very clearly.
And if we use the word investigative over enforcement, that describes exactly what these cameras are. They're just an investigative tool. You're not going to get a ticket, nothing like that.
Councilwoman, I believe you had a...
Yeah, thank you. Chief, thank you for giving us more detail. I was fortunate enough to sit in with you and the vendor and ask some questions that I think, the public wants to know, needs to know. Some of that has been addressed by the council or yourself. I do have one question. At that meeting, the camera number was 17, and I see now that it's 22 or 24.
22 fixed and 1 portable camera.
And we discussed that probably the need for maybe having the portable for various reasons.
Yes, yes. So that's if we're having, an issue in a certain neighborhood, it could be vandalism, theft, anything. We can respond and we can put a camera in that area and cover a specific area.
So was the increase for the camera from 17 to 22 because of the financial changes? So locking into a lower rate and potentially needing, like, what was the reason for increasing the amount?
That helped, but that wasn't the full reason. We, over the past, I would say 3 or 4 months, my team met and we really kind of looked at our prior plan, and there were some gaps, and we wanted to be able to cover some other areas. So that was the increase.
The way you spoke about the payment, so we're paying this vendor upfront for the 5 years?
That's correct.
So that's why you talked about if for whatever reason the contract had to be nulled, we would receive a return on that.
That's correct.
One of the things that I don't know was made clear to the public is, though the city owns this data for the 30 days, then it goes into a cloud and is able to retract. It is
No, it's after 30 days, it's gone. It's gone.
it is available to other municipalities if they seek authorization.
They have to seek authorization through us, and we would require them, much like Cranston and Providence and Warwick required of us, to sign an MOU that states how we can access this. Again, it has to be for law enforcement purposes only. Case number has to be associated. There are agencies across the country that don't require that have shared their cameras with us without an MOU. We will require an MOU. We already have it typed up, ready to go.
Perfect. And just to reiterate what you mentioned before, and you just mentioned a couple of times, so it's associated with the case number, and it's specific law enforcement that would have access to that. So like detectives, it wouldn't just be anybody that's in the police department, regardless if they had a case number. It's specifically to
Correct.
detective.
So the way most police departments do it in our area is our patrol officers would be able to get the real-time alerts. So they're on the road. They would get those real-time alerts. Dispatch would get them. I believe we can get them right on their laptops in the computers. Searchable access would be supervisors and above. So we would allow our lieutenants who oversee a shift to have access to that, our investigators. So there may be times when a patrol officer needs to search it. They would just have to go through their supervisor working that day.
Chief, I would, and to my colleagues, say why I support this. I would say without exaggeration that just about every night when watching some news show, there is something similar. There was a gentleman last night who was having his catalytic converter stolen in his car while he was sitting in the car. I don't know how that quite happened, but this kind of a camera saw that and was able to get the perpetrators. Regular homeowners, things happen in their homes, in their yards, theft, something happens to a car. And what do? They run around the neighborhood saying, who's got a Ring camera? Who's got this? Who's got that? It's a way of life now to have these investigative tools. We're not talking speed cameras now at all. It's everywhere. It's helping to solve crimes, serious crime, across the nation. So why wouldn't we do this? And in our case, asset forfeiture is paying for it. Who knows, after 5 years, we'll cross that bridge when we get to it about funding, but I can't see any downside. I have a couple of liberal friends who've called me and said, Big Brother, well, we're beyond that now. I'd rather have a little bit of investigative Big Brother looking over my shoulder if we're going to help out. I think you have a representative from the company here. Is there something that she wants to add or you want to add? I appreciate your patience. Okay, Councilman Rigo.
Cranston and Chepachet and a couple other cities have had, or cities or towns have had this for a couple of years. So the
Seekonk too, right?
Seekonk is, if they're not active, they are about to be shortly. They're getting 20.
So my question is just on the MOU. The Attorney General's, obviously other departments have used it already. This is the Attorney General there's been no problems with the Attorney General's office in regards to this, that they haven't have any pushback, that they like the language and everything and on all this that goes on between the intercities or intercity or towns.
We had our solicitor review the MOU. Yeah. The AG's office hasn't. You're referring just to the MOUs?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, the AG hasn't chimed into that, but we did have our solicitor review our MOU, and it's very similar to the other local agencies' MOUs.
All right. I just wanted to have somebody with legal knowledge to make sure if our solicitor says it's okay, I
Want to add to that?
on that one.
Appreciate the vote of confidence.
Thank you.
One last question, Chief. In terms of a normal day, do you have to assign any officer or anyone in the police station to we're not just monitoring this, right? Only go to it when there's a suspected problem, right? You're not assigning someone who's on the clock to just sit all day and.
No, this would be, I mean, we do have to, we can do customized hot lists, which each of our division commanders will be in charge of. And that customized hot list is if our traffic unit, for example, has a hit and run and they have information about this vehicle, we can enter it into the system so that if it does, pass one of the cameras, it will give us an alert. So, and the same could be with, various other investigations. It takes some, effort, obviously, to keep those hot lists active. We need to keep them, if we're not looking for a car anymore, we can't have that car in the hot list. So it doesn't take a tremendous amount of manpower, but it does take some. But on the other end, it's saving us a lot of manpower too on the investigative end. When something happens, the first thing we do is we're manually knocking on doors, asking for Ring camera, trying to figure out how to, download it, get it emailed, it didn't work, going back and forth. So we're saving man hours in the long run.
So through the chair, Chief, so take me through, every car is getting its picture taken.
Correct.
And if there's a hot list item or a car that's suspected of doing foul, there's a ping that goes where?
So it would go to our dispatchers and our patrol officers. So
simultaneously.
Yes. So it would be different levels of hot lists. It doesn't, just because a car's on a hot list and we get an alert, doesn't necessarily mean we stop it right away. It could just be, we need to know that car's in the area. We would get alerts if there was an NCIC hit on the car, meaning if it was a stolen vehicle, if there was an amber alert, a silver alert, a party that's an individual that's wanted nationally, we would get those real-time alerts.
It's good. Thank you.
Is it just vehicles? What about a person robbing a bank and is walking away from the bank and?
Just vehicles.
Just vehicles.
Just vehicles. Takes no pictures of people, just the rear of vehicles.
Okay. Other comments from the council at this point? There also is a representative from the company here. Does anyone have a question? If not, what is your pleasure?
Make a motion to approve.
Motion by Councilman Lawson to approve,
Second.
seconded by Councilman Rigo to approve. Madam Clerk, could you call a roll, please, for this?
Yes, sir. Councilman Fogarty,
Aye.
Councilman Lawson,
Aye.
Council Vice President Rigo,
Aye.
Councilwoman Souza,
Aye.
Council President Rodrick.
Aye. Thank you. Passes unanimously. Thank you, Chief and Representative.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for your
Thank you,
patience
Council.
and waiting.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Can we revert back to the regular order? And don't forget Councilman Rigo's stop sign.
Well, that's
He
not,
thought I forgot it, but I wrote it down here.
That one's not next.
That's not next, but
It's
you'll have
his
to wait.
communication item. The ARPA funding allocation, A, parks, playgrounds, fields to include adaptive equipment. B, former Oldham building. C, placemaking initiative, banners and signage. D, facade improvement program. E, city hall audio and visual upgrades, discussion only. Councilman Lawson and Council Vice President Rigo.
See, Madam Clerk, that's how they get around me. They say, we've got one item, and then they do A, B, C, D, E, F, G.
Yes, so it's fine.
And we have. With that said,
I was asked to be very, very detailed when I give them info, and that's what I'm going to do.
thank you, Councilman. Please proceed.
So I was handed this document as I sat down, and if you guys have it? The opera document?
Yes.
On the last page, they put together, it looks like the administration already started to do what we're discussing. So we talked about playgrounds, parks, and fields. So number one, under public health, they have it listed, improve public parks. We were noticing things like backstops that are chain link fences. Maybe we could look into replacing that with the netting, like at the high school, because at Forbes, Bob was showing me the fencing's coming in, that a kid could get cut. Maybe it makes sense to replace those. Why we got
Pierce, right?
What'd I say?
You said Forbes.
Forbes. I'm a Riverside.
That's
guy.
all right.
I'm
You're
sorry.
from Riverside.
Would it help you guys if we helped assess some of these parks in our neighborhood? We don't want to put everything on you guys, like give you a list and say, but if we go to some of these parks and throw some of these ideas at you guys that we can vet around, maybe we could come to an understanding of what we're trying to accomplish.
And
with the parks?
before the director replies, it's a good idea. One of the things down the line, and we'll talk a bit about it later, I want to reactivate our city recreation board, which was here for decades and just normally got tired and people left and it's been vacant. So I think under our revised ordinances on things like that, we get the recreation board back together. It involves local people that are in with the organizations, public, some of us. And we just meet and go over recommendations because we don't expect staff to have to spend time on going.
No, we definitely don't want to dump work on you guys are busy. We don't want to be dumping a ton of stuff. So utilize us.
And it may not, we may
Let
not
us
do
help.
everything everyone wants.
No, absolutely not.
Together some
But for instance, like adaptive equipment, glider swings for those with mobility issues. We could look at some sensory items for, our population on the spectrum, stuff like that. I think that's very appropriate. But we want to work with you guys to come up with some of these ideas and then help you vet them. And then that way we can come up with a dollar amount and better move forward.
And while we have some opera funding, again, we're not going to be attacking the budget.
Exactly.
Because these are mostly one-time fixes for years. A backstop at a ball field that's probably been up already 40 years and is now curled up with spikes facing.
And it's not as if the park's in bad condition. Like I was in Grassy Plains the other day. It's gorgeous. We're making a lot of progress.
Right. This is a positive.
Exactly. We just want to give you guys the resources to be able to, even if we have to hire out.
You're feeling all that love and positivity, Mr. Director. Would you please comment?
I was feeling it.
Yes.
Excellent idea. I met with Council President Rodrick earlier today. He was talking about this recreation committee. I think that's great. Everything starts with communication.
Absolutely.
We can communicate, the better off we are.
Yep.
If we don't have the lines of communication open, then we have issues.
Yeah. So one thing I forgot to put on the list, and it came to mind after reading all the press releases about the dispatch center, is we need a lot of work on the police station.
Yes.
Why not utilize some of this opera funding? We got the architects going in, right, to look at redesigning the interior.
Yeah, we're currently in the process of evaluating each of the different architects.
And would opera funding be good for that? Because I don't believe we need to do prevailing wage. That will save the city thousands of dollars. That's not true.
That was the federal law says APRA funds do not have to pay prevailing wage unless the state has a similar prevailing wage, and Rhode Island does. Any project over $50,000 has to pay prevailing wage.
So government gets screwed with prevailing wage. Private sector doesn't have to, but taxpayers have to. So, all right. Anyway, but let's bring the police station up to 2023 policing standards. You guys have the business incubator, so it sounds like we're on the same page.
We are.
And
we
can help you guys.
I wish the police chief was still here, but we've been meeting all week. We were
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
met with
Absolutely.
3 different architects.
Yep.
And part of what they're going to do is give us an idea of how much it's going to cost, the best way of us to save money and to move forward, bringing new technology to the police department, looking at things such as drones.
Yep.
Drones weren't a thing a couple of years ago.
No, they're investigative too.
So there's a lot of things that we're looking at doing.
Awesome.
And we're just going to go through the process first.
Okay. Was there anything I left off on my list that you guys wanted to bring up for possible opera funding?
I mean, I had to break away, but you have the special needs.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. We got to show them that the community is looking out for them.
What I want to suggest is that we have a mini workshop. It could be at a regular council meeting. We assign a certain time for a mini workshop, and we get specific with some suggestions. And it can always be added to or deleted from later on. But instead of us sitting here throwing around
Discussion.
ideas, right? This is a good
Discussion only. So we're
right.
not
And that's all. I just want to
anybody's
keep
feet
the
to the
line.
fire or anything like that.
Right. And along those lines, I would say to Director Borges, we want you to know, because we've had conversations about this, how much we appreciate what your staff are doing. Please realize there are 5 members here who are active with a lot of youth organizations. Some councils weren't always like that. That's good and bad. You know, it's good because many of us are out with these organizations all the time. Bad for you because we call you the next day after a game or an event or a play, and we say, hey, we heard this from people last night and parents. So take it in, the vein. We understand these things cannot be done overnight, but we get a little bit anxious because we want to get it done, and we've seen some neglect back 10, 20 years or whatever. So it's all positive.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I mean, and we're doing our best to address things as they're, most urgent, right, at this point.
So the fact that you changed your phone number means you still understand?
We appreciate everything. Councilman Rodrick did it. Every council is different, and fortunately, unfortunately, you have a council, 5 people here who are very active in the community. I'm not saying others were, but probably more. And the passion that we bring, we're just here to make the city better.
So maybe I'll put together something. I'll send it to all of us. Maybe the June meeting, we can do a little mini workshop and come up with some specifics that we have in mind. And maybe not all of them are good ideas, but we'll get more specific for you and give you time.
I mean, just so the council can keep in mind, I mean, we have close to how many capital projects? There's a lot of going on.
That's why we don't want to just add it on. If we got to hire contractors, let's do it.
I mean, and I've mentioned before, I mean, we're looking at documenting and taking photos and, looking at every single asset and every single park. And it's going to take time, but it's something that, I'm working towards trying to.
We're here to help.
Basically, what we really need to start doing is coming up with a good capital plan where we can forecast, 5-10 years down the road and, replace 2 benches a year, whatever it might be to maintain our, our park. So not only that, but I wanted to add on the adaptive equipment. As you know, we did just recently go out to bid. We awarded the contract for the Atlantis Avenue parking lot. We just received submittals from the contractor, and we had them revise a few items to incorporate a bucket swing at that park.
Awesome.
And the surface will be ADA compliant. So there is, accessibility.
Could you price out the glider swings for kids in a chair?
Are you talking about like the
not the buckets that they sit in? It's like you wheel the chair right onto it. It's a platform, and then it just swings like back and forth.
Yeah, we can price that out. Yeah, that's not a problem.
And that's kind of what we can do to it.
I think we may have it at 1 or 2 of our playgrounds already. Does not Hennessy, White Neck?
I think White Neck might.
White Neck may have, yeah. And it's just basically you wheel a chair on and then the kids can swing, basically.
And I think there's new technology now too with recreation and with fields. The 20, 30 years ago of putting up old chain link fence for surrounding a ball field is kind of changed now. Like the new high school, which is not our purview, but the new high school, as an example, has this mesh netting that, and they can take it down in the winter, and there's no more chain link. Per se. So we get new technologies involved, but I don't want to belabor the point. We'll schedule a workshop.
And Napoleon, it would be great if we could work with Kelly to get a game plan for AV in this building, for teleconferencing. There's different technology like owls and stuff. So like these boards and commissions, we can make it where we don't have to have an IT person there. It's basically they just hit a button and meetings are there.
Yeah, we could definitely explore that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think that'd be a great value for the city.
Zoom ready meeting room.
Yeah, well, teleconference, Zoom, however you want to do it. But if you're having, we're the city of East Providence, we need to show a good face.
All right, thank you. Could we go next, Madam Clerk?
Yes, sir. Next item, public hearings, ordinance for first and final passage, which we've already done, and second passage for discussion and possible vote. An ordinance and amendment of Chapter 18 of the revised ordinances of the City of East Providence, Rhode Island, 1998, as amended, entitled Vehicles and Traffic. Summary is Section 18-269B to place a stop sign on Hoyt Ave northbound traffic at its intersection with Wilson Avenue. The sponsors, Council Vice President Rigo.
Thank you. That should be replacing the yield sign with the permanent stop sign. Right now, there's a yield sign there, and people just go through it, and it's accidents waiting to happen. A lot of screeching brakes, and last thing we want to do is bring the fire department out there to have more rescue runs.
Do you want to make a motion?
Make a motion to, it's a public hearing, so.
Is there anyone present who would like to speak on this specific only question? Yes, please come forward.
Same name, same address. Nancy Hale, 889 Bullocks Point Avenue. So the signs just don't matter, basically. And it's
You have to speak on this item, Hoyt Avenue.
Hoyt Avenue. I'm talking about Hoyt and Wilson.
Right.
Have to specific.
Comment applies to Hoyt Avenue or anywhere. But yes, if it's anywhere and everywhere, if people pay no attention to the signs, it's just a lot of work for the DPW to go out and find the gas line, the water line, do their research, and then put up a sign. And then people won't pay attention to the stop sign either, no matter where it is,
Are
even on
you,
Hoyt
are
Avenue.
you for or
You're
against?
against this stop
on
sign? You want
Hoyt
to keep it a
Avenue?
yield sign?
I don't even think I'm allowed to vote.
You're not.
I'm not, but you're asking
But
your
this
opinion.
is- you have to speak for or against.
Nancy, in this situation, hello?
Back up.
In a public hearing, you can only speak on the specific thing, and tonight it's about a stop sign on Hoyt Ave. So if you,
I'm speaking to that specific thing.
Are you for it or
for
against?
that specific
For it,
location,
against it.
That's the question.
I guess if I am allowed to vote, which I'm not, but I would
You're
say
not.
I am, I would, but you're asking me to say for or against, that feels like you're asking me
Your
to vote.
preference.
I would say I would be against it because it seems to me a waste of the Department of Public Works effort because people won't pay attention to the sign no matter what it says. And we don't have an enforcement staff to go out and sit there and see who's going to pay attention to the stop sign. That's what my experience has shown with 2 stop signs and warnings for stop signs.
Thank you. We do have to move along. I
Right.
Appreciate it.
It won't matter if you change the sign.
Okay, Councilman, any other comments? If anyone else here that wants to speak for or against the changing of the yield sign to a stop sign at Hoyt and
Hoyt and Wilson.
and Wilson. Seeing none, we close the public hearing. A motion is in order.
I will make the motion again that we change the yield sign to a stop sign at Wilson and Hoyt Avenue northbound.
Motion made by Councilman Rigo, seconded by Councilman Fogarty as described. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it unanimously. Thank you. Next item.
Next item, will be new business, mayor communications, items for announcement and discussion. Director of Administration, Napoleon Gonzalez.
Thank you, Mr. Gonzalez. You can proceed.
So earlier today, we had the elders Danlos syndromes ceremony out here to claim the month. This month is Awareness Month. I'm just going to read a little bit off the proclamation. Ehlers-Danlos syndromes are a group of genetic connective tissue disorders caused by different underlying abnormalities in collagen that together affect 1 in 5,000 people. Each type of EDS has its own set of symptoms, with some features seen across all types of EDS include joint hypermobility and dislocation, fragile, hyperextensible skin in that bruises and scars easily, and tissue fragility. Severe cases can be associated with unpredictable tearing of blood vessels and organs, leading to internal bleeding and other potentially life-threatening complications. Hypermobility spectrum disorders are connective tissue disorders that cause joint hypermobility, instability, injury, pain, fatigue, headaches, GI problems, and automatic dysfunction. And whereas there's no cure for any type of EDS or HSD, and conditions are managed by addressing a person's individual symptoms, EDS and HSD can cause a variety of symptoms in many different areas of the body. So people with these conditions often require multiple providers and different specialties to manage their care. Continued research is needed to better understand EDS and HSD. Encouraging further studies can lead to breathtaking breakthroughs in genetic testing, treatments, and other medical interventions, generating growth in the knowledge base and bringing hope for a cure. Therefore, Mayor Roberto da Silva recognizes the month of May 2023 as Ehlers-Danlos Syndromes and Hypermobility Spectrum Disorders Awareness Month in the city of East Providence.
Thank you, Mr. Director. I would add that we had two influential presentations that were very well received. Dr. Michael Healy from East Providence and a graduate of East Providence High School, who is an expert in this area, gave a presentation, and our own Councilwoman Anna Souza from her position as a registered nurse and as a nurse instructor now, also talked about her experiences with this, and it was something that not many people were aware of, and I think we're finally helping a little bit to get that
awareness
word out. I don't want to belabor it anymore, but Councilwoman, if you wanted to, add to your experience.
Yeah, I just I think it was a wonderful awareness and celebration for the public to bring to their attention. It is a rare hereditary disorder that goes undiagnosed for decades with a lot of suffering and quality of life deficiencies. So I'm glad that there are people like Dr. Healy who are able to help those who require these services. And I think it's important for public officials and the state and local officials to, do our part to make sure people are aware that we know what's going on and that we want to help support and guide people with the resources that are necessary.
Thanks, and thanks for tonight. Mr. Director, I think you have one more item.
Yes, the World Lupus Day 2023. Lupus is a severe and unpredictable autoimmune disease that can cause life-threatening damage to any organ in the body. Lupus is a global health problem that affects millions of people, young women, men, and children of all nationalities, races, ethnicities, genders, and ages worldwide. Lupus organization in and around East Providence call attention to the need for increases in medical research on lupus and education programs for health professionals and patients in one city. The Honorable Mayor Roberto da Silva, on behalf of the City of East Providence, proclaimed that Wednesday, May 10th, 2023, be recognized as World Lupus Day in the City of East Providence. Thank you.
Thank you for the report. Next item.
Next item, report of school committee liaison. If
They're not here. So the Martin Building Committee, they're moving along, doing their due diligence. They got a lot of talent on that building committee, so I'm excited for that. The high school punch list is being taken care of. They were members of the building committee, and Dr. Fran did a news report showing all the updates, what's going on. That is moving along. And finally, I want to give a shout out to the parents and staff of Warnington. They put on an amazing event a couple days ago for the kids. And I hope they cleaned up all that mess. Kids had a lot of fun, and we got some amazing teachers and community members that do a lot for our schools, and I think it's awesome, and it's one thing that contributes to Townie pride.
Thank you, Councilman. Thanks for keeping abreast of items with the school committee and school department. Next, please.
Next item, resolutions for discussion and possible vote. Resolution authorizing the mayor to execute the solid waste and recycling services agreement between the Rhode Island Resource Recovery Corporation and the City of East Providence, sponsor Council Vice President Rodrick.
Thank you. As we've done in the past, this is our agreement with the Rhode Island Resources, which is actually the landfill in Johnston. We have to send our trash and recyclables somewhere, and this is similar to all cities and in towns. And this agreement calls for the fiscal year 24 for our rate to be $58.50 per tonnage for solid waste trash. And this is the agreement that has been put together. For fiscal year 25, it would move to $63 per tonnage. If we go over that, the rate would jump to $115 per ton if we go over the average cap. This is just a little summary of, as you can see, it's a lengthy contract, which we all have. There is a 1.5% discount if we pay a little bit earlier. They will take yard debris, when we cut grass and have regular yard debris at no cost. We can put that out weekly in front of our homes in a barrel separate from the trash containers. So it's a pretty standard contract, as you can see by the length of this. I'm certainly not going to read all that small print. Mr. Solicitor, is there any headlines that I missed there?
No, this is the annual agreement that comes up every 2 years. This is a standard contract that every municipality is asked to sign, and the rates are set.
And if for some reason we did not vote to do this, we have to dump our trash
There was no,
in Regal's yard or something, right?
well, he would charge extra, I
He
think.
would charge extra than this.
Who sets the rates? Is that state?
They usually set by the state legislature, yeah.
Okay, so it wasn't a negotiated thing.
This is what they call a contract of adhesion, take it or leave it, basically.
Okay.
They set the rates.
So you don't have to read this. Basically, it's like,
Well, you still got to read it. You never know. I still read it.
yeah,
So I pulled out some of the key facts. Any questions on this?
I'll charge half.
Sure you would.
Okay.
Could you read the whole thing just so we?
I could.
I know somebody that would want trash in my yard.
I'll make a motion to approve unless there's more conversation.
Councilman Lawson makes a motion, seconded by Councilman Fogarty. The contract as presented. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it unanimously. Thank you. Next item.
Next item, resolution authorizing city council expenditure of funds. The summary is authorizing $320 expenditure for purchase of note cards and envelopes. Sponsor Councilwoman Souza.
Move to approve.
Second. You don't have to even talk.
Yeah, something we've talked about before, and we're just a little transparency. We vote on it. Did you want to add anything or?
Just a matter of procedure with new council rules. This item's on the docket for.
Right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it unanimously. Thank you.
Councilwoman, I'll order those in the morning for you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
Next item, introduction of ordinances for discussion and possible vote. An ordinance and amendment of Chapter 9 of the revised ordinances of the City of East Providence, Rhode Island, 1998, as amended, entitled Miscellaneous Offenses. Summary is Section 9-17 through 9-21. Revision to City Graffiti Ordinance, including penalties. The sponsor is Council President Rodrick, Council Vice President Rigo, and Councilwoman Souza.
So I wanted to start off
Please.
with this, and then I'll allow my
Yes.
fellows, supporters and sponsors to chime in. So this, for me, started a few years ago when the City Hall building was graffitied right outside here of the rotunda with some tagging. And we didn't have a great ordinance. It was very minimal on the books. So it was an opportunity to put something down to help hold those responsible for taking action against city property or public property or private property, and having some fees and other penalties associated with that. Since then, there has been an uptick, not only nationally, but more so in our city, more so than I think we've recognized before, throughout the city in all 4 wards, where there is more tagging and what some may consider art on private or city property. And it's offensive to a lot, right? And it takes a lot of upkeep and cleaning and work, and it's just, not responsible of those artists to be doing to property that is not theirs. So I thank the law department and the sponsors for putting a little bit more into this ordinance that covers a wide variety of graffiti or other destruction to property, to give us a little bit more control or substance. I will say that, some of this also comes with accountability and enforcement. So I think that's important too, for us to be able to do that, to hold people accountable when we can identify who those perpetrators are. The only thing I did want to say for residents, because I know that there's some language in here that speaks to property owners and their responsibilities. If the graffiti becomes a nuisance, or that they become notified by the city that it has to be removed or cleaned up, that I would hope that in that or in that notice to our residents or to that property owner, that this language regarding, maybe hardship would be also included, so that people don't feel like, something was done to them and to their property. And obviously it could be difficult for some people to have that removed, or to be brought back to whole, and we don't want them to feel overly burdened by that. So to know that there are alternatives, and that the city will work with the property owner to make that those repairs or cleanup without being a hardship.
Correct. That's my understanding also, and that the city will help, if not remove, the graffiti or vandalism totally. I think this is a reference to people who may not cooperate and leave and get properties to look run down. But I think you said it nicely. I don't have anything to add. Other sponsors want to add anything? Ready? What is your pleasure? First passage.
So I make a motion to approve ordinance as read for first passage.
I second that motion.
Motion by Councilwoman Souza, approval for first passage, seconded by Councilman Rego. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
Nay.
The ayes have it, 4-1. One nay. Thank you.
Guy at the end.
I'm sorry, Councilman
The guy at the end.
Lawson was a nay vote. Yep. The other 4 were yes votes. Next item, please.
Next item, ordinances and amendment of the revised ordinances of the City of East Providence, Rhode Island, 1998, as amended. I will save you me reading all those numbers. We are updating various provisions of the Code of Ordinances regarding the appointing authority under the 2017 Home Rule Charter Amendment, and repealing defunct boards and commissions. The sponsor is Council President Rodrick.
Thank you. As has been a discussion off and on since the current charter that we are under with the new form of government, Assistant Solicitor Dylan Conley has been working on updating ordinances that have to reflect the new charter. For instance, have to remove references to city manager and replace it with mayor. None of this is changing policies. We are just kind of following law and putting into play the proper language in our ordinances to match up with the charter. So my request tonight, my plan is, this is over a 35-page document. I don't think we're going to go through it all tonight. We do need to have a public hearing on this and have an open discussion. In order to get to that stage, which would be our next meeting, we need to at least start the conversation and have first passage tonight, which obviously doesn't implement any of this until we have the public hearing. Let me just outline this, that on April 21st, this ordinance amendment draft was sent to all of us by Assistant Solicitor Dylan Conley, and he outlined his overview of proposals. I've mentioned how there are some 35 pages or so. We're essentially just eliminating the term city manager and replacing it with mayor. Some defunct provisions are being eliminated. As an example, we, for years, no longer have a position called sealer of weights and measures. That is something that the state has overtaken for just about every community. That used to be a council appointment at inauguration time. So we no longer do that. We no longer have that. So the solicitor's suggestion is to do away with that terminology. All proposed changes are identical in concept, manager to mayor, et cetera. We're not changing anything. Solicitor Conley has arranged this into 5 phases, which we all have. First one is for express charter language that exists, simply to make the code of ordinances conform to the charter. The second phase would be repealing anything if boards no longer exist. The third is repealing outdated ordinances, but with replacement for them. And the example I give is our suggestion to reactivate our recreation board. So we need to just change the language to reflect what we want to do now and the fact that there's no longer a city manager. The fourth phase would be the roles, authorities, administrative employees. Again, language has changed. And finally, his fifth phase is boards and commissions according to binding authority. Mr. Solicitor, it's kind of a thing where this has to be done, correct? I mean, we have to be in line with our charter. It doesn't take away our discussion of this or things we want to add, but this is just conforming to the new form of government.
So when the charter was amended to the new form of government, this was actually supposed to be done within a year of the charter amendment. It wasn't done. This is a lengthy document, and I would certainly, my recommendation would be to set it down for to give the council time to digest it, to probably set it down for the June meeting. So you give time, so you can set it down for a June meeting so you can talk about it. I don't think the assistant solicitor sent everyone a memo or.
He sent an email to all of us on April.
Yeah, I wasn't involved in the drafting of this. This was something that
So you're saying we don't need first passage?
No, you could set it down for first passage, but I would delay it, the second passage, for a couple of weeks, just so you give the time to look into it. And I know that there's some questions that people have asked me tonight. I'm going to look at it myself. I did look at it a little bit this afternoon, but this was a project that was delegated to the assistant solicitor because he was working with the Charter Commission when this was official, when the last charter amendments were done. But this was something that's long overdue. One of the things that I do like about it does get rid of some of these committees that really haven't met in a long time, where the council hasn't appointed. But you certainly have the ability to reactivate any of them at any time, or add to them if you wanted to. But things like assistant city manager, that's obviously obsolete.
Right.
Other things like that. But I mean, you can do it at the council's pleasure. But my recommendation would be to set it down for like the June 6th hearing, and so that gives you some time to look through it.
So does that sound reasonable?
Are we doing this in pieces or are we doing this all in one shot? That's my question.
Well, it's in one ordinance, so I would think in one shot. It gives us from now until June 6th to go through it. Again, it isn't anything, we can't change some of this. It has to be, it has to conform to the current charter.
We are working through a current charter also.
The present, yeah, there's nothing to do with the charter commission. Right.
These are ordinances.
Correct.
And like the Carousel Commission, it's all blocked out in here. He's already written a draft to replace that.
Right.
The Recreation Department, I don't know if there's any other boards or commissions that you need to see.
It's in here,
draft.
right?
So he'll have, my understanding is, sorry to interrupt, my understanding is that some of the things that have been deleted will be replaced with that'll be the second phase of this. So before we give you a new one, we want to delete the old one.
Exactly. And he just figured it's, to kind of just piecemeal rather than throw like a bunch of it all at once at us. So I know I did see the draft of the Carousel Commission and the rec. Yeah.
So it comes down to we have to start at some point. So and I was thinking next meeting, but I agree June 6th would give us a little more time. But it does take two passages. So the first passage tonight would allow us to schedule a public hearing for June 6th, or at least to get the process going. We don't want to start doing this in July, in August. We have, first of all, not as many meetings. We have the budget public hearings to go through. So I think we need to get this in shape.
And to the extent that you have any typos, changes you'd like to make, I'd ask that you just email the law department through Dylan, so we can keep track of it.
I did forget to mention that, and in speaking with Dylan, he said any of us individually, not as a group, but email him, call him with any questions, and I'm sure also Solicitor Marcello, email either, and get those questions asked now. Don't wait for June 6th. June 6th, you can have the public questions and comments, but the preparation for it, you can certainly go through this and call and give Dylan a call. So is there any?
I'm looking at Dylan's email. He didn't send it to the entire council. It was just you and I because you're the recreation. So I'm going to ask him to send it to everybody.
I was just emailing him because I did not receive.
Yeah, no, you did. It was only to me and Bob.
My mistake. I thought I went to.
Yep. No, and we'll ask him to correct that. Make sure you guys are all getting that.
Sure.
But it was only he sent us a draft of the Carousel Commission.
Sent us yeah, I know something.
Are there other, is he working on others?
Yep.
Okay.
There'll be, let me see. I think there was a senior. Was there senior? One second.
I'll forward it to.
No, they're all throughout, I think. I would also offer his, he's willing to meet with you to go through it one by one. I did that. He met with me to go through this. So if anybody wants to meet with him privately to go through it, one to
Right.
get a better
In
understanding.
the
It'd be like
morning,
the
or later,
Harbor.
I'll forward it.
Yeah.
Also.
Yeah.
Harbor Management Commission,
Yep.
Senior and Disabled Citizens Advisory Committee. I didn't even know we had one.
So these are that are here present before us are sections
Just-
that the two of you have been working with him on? Or?
No.
Okay,
So he
this was done at the request of whom?
This was done at the request of the Charter Commission of the previous charter, because the previous charter said that all these had to be done within a year of passage, and frankly, they weren't done because we're just getting our feet wet. So, but these are things that definitely needed to be done.
My only contact was on the Carousel Commission. That was the rest of the stuff. Mike was saying, he had to clean it up anyway.
And you served on the last charter commission, right? So you recall the
But we had to clean everything up. So we went from city manager to mayor, form of government, and then there was things like the finance director shall get a salary of $5,000. That was active in the charter. So we had to clean up all these ordinances now.
Right.
And that's just a laborious process that hopefully we can get a law student so we're not paying the high rates.
You did have a law student help him out on that.
Good.
Isn't the Carousel Commission already in place? Because I've sat through a couple of meetings already where we'll just update.
They don't report to a city manager. It's language.
So what? Yeah.
That's why take your time to go through it when it's not. I want to feel comfortable where this is really just a housekeeping issue, and it's administrative, and it's a draft. But I know that Assistant Cecil Connolly would be more than happy to meet with you individually.
So I'm open to making a move to push it forward unless there's anybody that's,
I'll entertain a motion at this time to pass this for initial passage as a draft and schedule the public hearing for June 6th.
And at that public hearing, if there's other changes that are made and whatnot, or other things that you wanted to add or subtract, then we have to just continue it
You'd
and
have
go
to
back.
continue another-
Continue. But that's the process. So it's not, we want to get it right because this is a.
Right, we waited this long.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
So is that a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve this ordinance.
Motion made by
First passage.
Councilman Lawson. Is there a second? No second? We want to keep city manager in our ordinances?
Second.
Second by Councilman Fogarty. Madam Clerk, can you please call the roll?
Yes, sir. Councilman Fogarty,
Aye.
Councilman Lawson,
Aye.
Council Vice President Rigo.
Aye.
Councilwoman Souza.
Aye.
Council President Rodrick.
Aye. The ayes have it, 5-0. Unanimous. Thank you. Let's get this done.
Next item, can Mike and I vote on this one? Next item, adjournment.
Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Motion by Councilman Lawson, seconded by Councilwoman Souza. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? You guys have it. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you.